Almighty God, who in thy infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of rulers and councils for the welfare of society and the just government of man, we beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor as thy servants whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of such important trusts in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Let thy blessing descend upon us here in this parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in thy presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote thy honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interests thou hast committed to our charge, all which we ask in the name and for the sake of our Lord and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Obituary and congratulatory remarks. Confirmation of minutes.
To move that the minutes of the meeting of Friday, 10th November 2023 be confirmed as circulated.
Yes, seconded, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the minutes of the meeting of Friday, 10th November 2023 be confirmed as circulated. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. So the minutes, yes. Yeah. The minutes is confirmed as circulated.
Announcements by Speaker.
Just one announcement there. I received letters seeking permission to be absent from the following members: the Honorable Prime Minister, Roosevelt Skerrit, Honorable Melissa Skerrit, Senator the Honorable Philip Rule, Senator Honorable Oscar George, Senator the Honorable Ostel Lockhart, Attorney General Levi Peter, and Honorable Dr. Cassandra Williams. Permission is granted to all.
Government notices.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice that at a later stage of the proceedings, I will be moving the motion authorization for a bank guarantee to secure the commitments made in the project financing agreement between the government of the Commonwealth of Dominica and the Geothermal Power Company of Dominica 2023 Limited, owned by OMA Technologies Inc., standing in my name on the order paper.
Statement by ministers. Public business, government business, motion.
Whereas Section 37 of the Finance Administration Act, Chapter 6302 of the 2017 revised laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica states that no guarantee involving any financial liability shall be binding upon the government unless that guarantee is given in accordance with the provisions of an act or unless approved by resolution of the House of Assembly. And whereas by virtue of Section 3.1 of the Loans Act, Chapter 6405 of the 2017 Revised Laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica, the House of Assembly may, by resolution duly passed, authorize the minister responsible for finance to borrow money from approved sources or guarantee loans to statutory boards or public corporations for the purpose of financing general development purposes in any foreign currency or currencies. And whereas the government of Dominica is desirous of utilizing Dominica's geothermal resource for the generation of electricity and other commercial uses. And whereas to date the government of Dominica has succeeded in confirming the viability of the Roseau Valley geothermal resource and has taken the final steps towards commercial operations. A. Drilled 7 geothermal wells in Loda, Waterwaven, and Trafalgar. B. Provided a geothermal resource capable of supporting 10 megawatts of electricity generation in Loda. C. Designed and tendered for the construction of a new, efficient, and resilient electricity transmission network connecting the geothermal power plant to the hydroelectric power plant and to the national grid from the Roseau Valley to Forco Lake. And whereas the Geothermal Power Company of Dominica 2023 Limited, owned by Omat Technologies Inc. of Nevada, United States, entered into an agreement on December 5, 2023 with the government of the Commonwealth of Dominica to finance, build, and operate a 10-megawatt geothermal power plant at Loda and then transfer to the government a fully operational power plant after 25 years of operation at no cost to the government. And whereas a sum not exceeding $5 million United States dollars or 13,500,000 Eastern Caribbean dollars is required to secure the commitments made in the project financing agreement between the government of Dominica and the Geothermal Power Company of Dominica 2023 Limited, owned by Omat Technologies Inc. of Nevada, United States, for the construction of a geothermal power plant. And whereas the National Bank of Dominica has agreed to provide a bank guarantee to the Geothermal Power Company of Dominica 2023 Limited on behalf of the government. And whereas the government of Dominica may enter into debt in the event of a recovery or drawdown from the bank guarantee by Geothermal Power Company of Dominica 2023 Limited. Be it resolved that in accordance with Section 37 of the Finance Administration Act, Chapter 6302 of the 2017 Revised Laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica, this Honorable House authorizes the Minister for Finance to obtain a bank guarantee from the National Bank of Dominica in the amount of $5 million or 13,500,000 EC dollars on the following terms to secure the commitments made in the project financing agreement between the Government of Dominica and the Geothermal Power Company of Dominica 2023 Limited for the construction of the geothermal power plant. Period, 2 years, expiring no later than January 2nd, 2026. The commission is 2% upon issue and annually thereafter. And be it further resolved that in accordance with Section 3.1 of the Loans Act, Chapter 6405 of the 2017 Revised Laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica, this Honorable House authorizes the Minister for Finance to borrow any amount recovered or called in by the Geothermal Power Company of Dominica 2023 Limited, but not more than $5 million United States dollars or 13,500,000 Eastern Caribbean dollars on the following terms in the event of a cause for a recovery or call-in. Repayment period, 240 months. Interest rate, 5% per annum on the reducing balance. The grace period, 2 years on principal. Second.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to second the motion.
Mr. Speaker, on December 5th, 2023, the government of Dominica signed 2 agreements with Ormat Technologies, Inc. of the United States and its subsidiary, the Geothermal Power Company of Dominica, 2023 Limited. The agreements are the concession agreement and the project finance agreement. A power purchase agreement was also signed at the same time between the DOMLEC and the Geothermal Power Company of Dominica, 2023 Limited. One of Dominica's obligations under the agreement is the provision of security, at least in the form of a bank guarantee of US $5 million to Ormat Technologies, Inc. This security is required to secure payment in the event of an early termination of the agreement by the government of Dominica. This security is to be maintained for a maximum of 24 months from the date of effectiveness of the contract. Mr. Speaker, it is worth repeating that this security is for a very limited period, and there's only one condition for drawdown, that condition being early termination of the concession agreement by the government. It should also be pointed out that Ormat Technologies, Inc. must at this time also provide the government and DOMLEC with securities totaling US dollars 5.75 million. Of this sum, $3 million US dollars will go to DOMLEC for securing payments for delays in achieving commercial operations, and US 2.75 million goes to government as security for payment associated with an environmental repair which may be required. Mr. Speaker, the government has made a request to the National Bank of Dominica for the provision of a US $5 million or EC $13.5 million guarantee to fulfill the conditions of the agreement. The National Bank of Dominica has agreed to provide the guarantee for a period of 2 years, expiring no later than January 2nd, 2026, with a 2% commission upon issue of the guarantee and 2% annually thereafter. As stipulated in Section 37 of the Finance Administration Act, Chapter 6302 of the 2017 Revised Laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica, no guarantee involving any financial liability shall be binding upon the government unless that guarantee is given in accordance with the provisions of an act or unless proved by resolution of the House of Assembly. In addition, both parties have agreed that if there is need for recovery from either party, that is, a need to call in or draw down on the guarantee, the appropriate bank guarantee shall be accessed directly by the recovering party. Any amounts drawn down from the government's bank guarantee will result in a debt by government to the National Bank of Dominica on the following terms: repayment period, 240 months, interest rate, 5% per annum on the reducing balance, the grace period, 2 years on principal. Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, based on Section 3.1 of the Loans Act, Chapter 6405 of the 2017 Revised Laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica, the authority for the Minister for Finance to borrow is to be granted by this House based on a resolution passed by the House. Bearing all of this I have just mentioned in mind, I look forward to the full support of the members of this Honorable House for the resolution which is now before the House. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The motion is before the House for debate. Yes, Senator Reid, you may proceed. Your mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning to everyone. On behalf of the leader and members of the opposition, I wish to extend to Dominicans near and far a very happy new year. I pray that your new year is filled with adventures and good fortune. You're welcome. Mr. Speaker, I rise to give my contribution to the resolution presented in this honorable House. I always forget. Mr. Speaker, may I refer to my notes, please?
You have to ask for permission, not me.
I'm seeking permission to refer to my notes, please.
Yes, you may.
I thank you.
Yeah.
Excuse me? That's okay. Honorable Blackmore. Happy New Year to you as well. Mr. Speaker, I rise to give my contribution to the resolution presented in this honorable House, seeking authorization for a bank guarantee to secure the commitments made in the project financial agreement between the government of the Commonwealth of Dominica and the Geothermal Power Company of Dominica 2023 Limited, owned by Ormart Technologies, Inc. I read through the resolution, Mr. Speaker, and due to the absence of all necessary information needed when making a sound financial decision, a list of questions arose. Now I know that an individual on the other side will stand here and say, oh, you should look here for the information and you should look there for the information. But why should I go on a wild goose chase looking for the information which can simply be presented with this resolution? So an informed discussion can ensue and the approval process can be a more inviting one. I recognize the Minister for Finance stood there and read it, but I like to read my own notes and highlight and research. That's how I happen to learn things. I can't listen to a bunch of information and make an informed decision. That doesn't work like that. But having said this, Mr. Speaker, my father taught me in the absence of information, you ask questions. I recall coming to this honorable house on November 10th, 2023, for the 6th meeting of the first session of the 11th Parliament for the approval of the 41 million US dollar loan from Saudi Development Fund for infrastructure rehabilitation in the city of Roseau. A bill was sent, but no actual project plan or cost estimate was presented. This seems to be a trend, Mr. Speaker, but in the absence of information, I ask questions. In accordance with Section 37 of the Finance Administration Act, Chapter 6302 of the 2017 revised laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica, we are here to agree or disagree that the Minister for Finance is authorized to obtain a bank guarantee from the National Bank of Dominica in the amount of 5 million US dollars or 13,500,000 EC dollars to secure the commitments made in the project financing agreement between the Government of Dominica and the Geothermal Power Company 2023 Limited for the construction of the geothermal power plant for a period of 2 years, expiring no later than January 2nd, 2026. Mr. Speaker, in the absence of information, I ask questions. Question number 1. Where is the copy of the project financing agreement? Where is it? I like to see things, touch it, read it. Why are we not privy to this information, which will help make an informed decision to support or provide recommendations to this resolution? Question number 2. What commitments are we securing? I want to read it. I want to see it. Question number 3. What are the risks involved and what exactly is the government guaranteeing with this performance bond? I want to read it. To read it for me, I can read it. According to an article on pressroom.opm.gov.dm, the government of Dominica and the Dominica Electricity Services, DOMLEC, have signed an agreement with Ormart Technologies, Inc., a U.S. company and its subsidiaries, for the development of a 10-megawatt geothermal power plant in Loda. The agreement was signed on Tuesday, December 5th, 2023, on the margins of COP28 in Dubai. Under the agreement, Ormart Technologies, Inc. will finance the construction of the plant, operate and maintain the power plant and geothermal wells for a period of 25 years, while the government of Dominica will maintain ownership of the wells, land, and other assets that it has invested in. Mr. Speaker, the biggest concern for the state-owned public utility DOMLEC is growth. When the geothermal project comes to completion on January 2nd, 2026, a new set of questions arise. And in the absence of information, I ask questions. Question number 4. At what cost will DOMLEC buy energy from Ormart Technologies, Inc.? Question number 5. Where will Domlec's growth come from to meet its power supply commitments when the government has taken away Domlec's production capability, thereby excluding it from the management of the production it is required to sell? Question number 6. While the government continues to announce its efforts to reduce costs and have renewable energy, how are we going to achieve this reduced cost? This is what consumers of Dominica would like to know. How will we benefit? Question number 7. Is there a possibility that Ormar Technologies, Inc. will eventually take control of Domlec within years from the commencement of geothermal power production? Mr. Speaker, in the absence of information, I ask questions. With the availability of the project financing agreement document for my review and understanding, the necessary information would have been clear to my colleagues and myself, and Dominicans by extension. Mr. Speaker, the government has spent hundreds of millions of dollars through grants and loans thus far to achieve the drilling of the 7 geothermal wells, provide a geothermal resource capable of supporting 10 megawatts of electricity generation in Loda, designed and tendered for the construction of the new efficient and resilient electricity transmission network connecting the geothermal power plant to the hydroelectric power plants and to the national grid from Roseau Valley to Fokole. However, in the absence of information, Mr. Speaker, I will ask a question. Question number 8, and my final question. From what profits will we pay these loans back? The revenues that is expected from this project for 25 years from January 6, 2026 will go to Ormar Technologies, Inc. What revenues will the government receive to contribute to the payment of these loans? And how long will the government wait for an ROI? 25 years? With the absence of information, I ask questions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Frederick. You may proceed.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Good morning to everyone. Season's greetings. I wish you everyone the best for the new year. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the resolution, both as the Minister for the Environment, because definitely a geothermal project will have positive environmental benefits, but also as the Member of Parliament for Sally Bear, which has the majority of the Kainab warriors on the White Golian space at this time. We know for a fact that the space is the home to the Kainago folks, but also there are a number of folks across our wonderful island who have Kainago heritage. And definitely, a project as geothermal will definitely affect those people. And we speak, Mr. Speaker, about marginalized people, vulnerable people, all of those will benefit. But on the point of the bank guarantee, just to clarify, I think, I in my limited knowledge of finance, I realize that a bank guarantee is a financial commitment by a bank to assume responsibility for debtors' obligation if they don't fulfill their contract. So I want to clarify that this is not a loan, this is a guarantee that you will assume and you will responsibility, and you want to make sure that you are secure in your investments, basically. So, Mr. Speaker, one of the things though about the geothermal project which we have to tidy up, and I think it's important to say it here in the Parliament, is that within the lifespan of a geothermal project, for instance, there are maybe two drawbacks. One is the sort of geological and geographical space, because you realize that you may need expansive land to explore. But we have passed that stage, Mr. Speaker. It is very clear that we have a very good site in the valley, and we as a government we are maximizing on our volcanic state as the volcanic island. And so, and the last frontier, again, parliamentarians of the Kainago people. And I think they would be happy, the ancestors would be happy to know that we are exploiting the natural resources to the benefit of a developing country. Mr. Speaker, the second piece is that we know that there are a number of environmental issues because when we clear lands and we do drilling, it impacts the environment. But we have done this in a very good way. And so those two basic drawbacks, I think, to geothermal we have illustrated with the guidance of our good colleague here, the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Trade, to do all of the necessary work with the geothermal company to ensure that these basic drawbacks do not affect our geothermal project. But moving forward, Mr. Speaker, we have many advantages. And like I said in the last sitting of Parliament, is going to provide cost-efficient energy. And that's important. I think sometimes we do not understand or we do not appreciate the government's thrust to have lower cost of energy. Because, Mr. Speaker, it is very clear that as a small island developing state, we have no control of the oil prices. We have absolutely no control. And at the cabinet level, we have been making great strides to create a buffer. And so the layman who goes to the pump with his bus, his truck, his car, his motorcycle, he can get the benefit of it. And the government have been able to absorb this over time. And so it's important that when we do our geothermal project, we will have this clean source of energy that is very reliable. And so we're speaking of a small island developing state, hoping to invest in a number of industries. We spoke recently about our green hydrogen thrust, which is very important. And so the bank guarantee is ensuring all of that happens in due time, because we really think it's way beyond time to have sort of fuel independence, power independence. And so that is important. And so it will affect businesses in a positive way, and also my major concern as a PAL rep is how it affects the people at the grassroots level. The people from Wakama all the way to Pegua, to Concord, and all the villages in between, and the people in various parts of our country who have to power their new homes. And while as I mentioned homes, Mr. Speaker, this is another important point of the geothermal. It's important to have a guarantee to ensure that we have the project in due time, because we have, as a government, been able to provide a number of folks across the national space with new homes. And having a new home, it needs to be powered, and we have gadgets and we have appliances that need to be powered. So, Mr. Speaker, the project has to continue. It has to go on. And as a government, we have put everything in place to guarantee that success. And so, Mr. Speaker, to the listening public, we are guaranteeing the success of the project, because it's a project that will definitely affect people in a positive way. Mr. Speaker, the other important piece about the geothermal project too, which is something we have to keep mentioning, and I think it cannot be overemphasized, is the environmental sustainability of such a project. As the country grows, as the country develops, new rural networks, Mr. Speaker, I speak to the East Coast Road. We will soon have the Lubia to Bagatelle Road, and also the road from St. Mary's River in Pegua area all the way to Portsmouth. With all of this, we will have developments, and one of the key parts that we worked nicely with our geothermal project is, Mr. Speaker, our tourism thrust, and how we're going to pour our new hotels. Not just the ones in Portsmouth, but the new hotels which will emerge. All of those hotels that are eco-friendly, and we are definitely pushing. So, in a nutshell, Mr. Speaker, we are pushing we are really pushing with serious commitment the ideals of the Nature Isle. Because, Mr. Speaker, we can't propose or proclaim that we are the Nature Isle, and we are still belching out fumes into the atmosphere, running diesel generators that are very expensive to maintain and very destructive to the environment. So Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that I give full commitment to the resolution. I think the Minister of Finance was very clear. I think the resolution in essence is very clear. The commitment of the government, the commitment by the geothermal company, I think it should not be referred to as the OMAT Inc., but the I think it should be referred to, Mr. Speaker, as the Geothermal Company of Power Company of Dominica. So that's something we have to correct in the narrative moving forward. And I think the terms are reasonable terms. The time frame is something we've considered. And what is also important, Mr. Speaker, in all of this, as I end, we are also illustrating in this conversation that we're working with our own indigenous bank. The NBD is our bank. It's our local bank. We're not tying ourselves to a foreign bank from the UK or Canada. It's a local bank with local resources and with local expertise, and they've been able to advise us, Mr. Speaker, in getting the best out of this agreement. So, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the good folks in the Kayanago space, on behalf of the people who are very much interested in protecting every aspect of the environment, I wish to support this resolution and give a full commitment. I think there is no argument against the geothermal. I think it's just important that we push forward, do it in a timely manner so the tangible benefits on the power switch at the household levels and at the businesses can be seen in the next few years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Charles Pemberton.
Greetings, Mr. Speaker. I didn't see you over the break, but I hope you had a Merry Christmas. And I hope all members of the House had a very Merry Christmas. Mr. Speaker, I rise to give my support to the request to approve the bank guarantee to the geothermal company owned by Oma Technologies. Mr. Speaker, the whole of Dominica knows that the government of Dominica has been pursuing geothermal energy for over the last 15 or almost 20 years. And the reason why we remain resolute on that mission was to provide, or is to provide, lower electricity costs to the people of Dominica. We wanted to reduce the cost of production and electricity costs to the homes of the average people of Dominica. And it has been a very challenging mission, not only because it was a new technology, well, to the Caribbean, you didn't have many experiences or plans, but Mr. Speaker, because many people, you know, when you're doing a high-risk project, it's very hard to get partners with the money up front. So the government of Dominica had to foot the bill for the exploration, Mr. Speaker, to test the potential to see if we have the resource to provide that electricity, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, that took a number of years because of challenges and unforeseen natural disasters, trusts, and many things, Mr. Speaker, which had to divert. We had to divert our attention and reallocate our resources at times to deal with other emergencies, Mr. Speaker. So it has been a very long journey, and I want to commend the Minister of Energy, who said, I don't know what he said, who is, after his involvement, he went to serve as ambassador, is finally the one bringing the agreement to the House. It's amazing, Mr. Speaker, how God works in mysterious ways. So, Mr. Speaker, everyone knows if you going to build a house, Mr. Speaker, if somebody, because OMAT is going to build the plant and operate it, right? We have tested, we said, OMAT, we have this resource. We are confident that if you build the plant, you'll get geothermal. OMAT doesn't know, remember, this is our work, our results. We have committed to building the transmission line. That's about 30 million plus. The minister will confirm when he speaks. They have the facts. About $30 million transmission lines from Roseau Valley to Fokoli. So it is not that we are out of this agreement. You are very much in it, Mr. Speaker. We are asking this partner to build the plant. And we are saying to them that we believe, based on the facts we have, that we have 20 megawatts. Our capacity is that, but we're asking to build a 10 megawatt plant. And just to give you a little background on OMAT, OMAT has built 190 power plants around the world, totaling a value of 3,200 megawatts. And you have to build in a 10. I told you they have built 3,200 megawatts of energy. we're looking for 10. And they're saying, if you're so confident you have the resource, I am going to finance it, no problem, I do that all around the world. But you have to show some level of faith and give that guarantee whilst I construct the plan. Because if tomorrow you change your mind, what recourse do I have? This resource is in Dominica, I can't take it to Nevada, where the company is based. It is based in Dominica. So what guarantee are you giving me for who is ready to build that plan for you? And that is all that is happening there. So they ask for a bank guarantee, and that we have to show confidence in what we have been telling people and seeking partnership. And Mr. Speaker, you know the global crisis now, you know the challenges all over the world. Nobody running to finance anything for anybody these days. You know. There are wars going on all around the world, affecting supply chain, affecting financial resources, resilience. There are a lot of things happening, Mr. Speaker. But there is this company willing to come along the journey with Dominica, journey we've been on for 20 years, and saying, I will finance, I will build, I will operate for 25 years. All I'm asking you during the construction, give me a guarantee. Because if you call that loan in on me, you say tomorrow, I change my mind, I get some big money on the CBI because I hear them talking about CBI, that I want to build my plan myself, what recourse do I have to recover? And that is all that is there. It's not money being given to Oman, as my Honorable Frederick said, it's just a security. When they build the plant, they operate it, the security is out. You have nothing to pay back. It has expiration date of 2 years, which is the time estimated for the completion of the plant. So, Mr. Speaker, I thought that would be very simple. I thought our focus is that we finally, I expect the member to say, after 20 years, we are finally getting to the stage where we can tell the Dominican people that you will have geothermal energy, Mr. Speaker. That is what I want us to do. And if you have a better alternative, they have another company out there they know about, that will do it without the bank guarantee, then propose it in the house. Tell the minister, he's there, he'll take notes. We'll pursue it. But let us be real and honest. Let us do things, factor in all what's going on around the world, and all the challenges this government has to, and all the issues the government has to deal with. The government cannot put its eggs in all in one basket. We have to diversify our own risk. We have to resettle the people from Petit Souffre.
Yes, we have to do that.
That's a big commitment, a lot of money, Mr. Speaker. We cannot put our eggs in one basket. And we have found a willing partner in the OMA Technologies who have established a company in Dominica. I said it is time we deliver geothermal energy to people. Let's do it, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Yes, Senator Victor. You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to give my contribution to this resolution before the House. Firstly, I'd like to ask permission to refer to my notes.
Permission granted.
You. Secondly, I would like to wish everybody in this honorable House a happy new year, and by Dominica by extension. Just as my colleague Senator Reed Henderson Reed, I have questions. Not questions, maybe 1, 2, 3, not 8 like that. I am not against geothermal. I'm putting this out there because our words tend to be misinterpreted on the other side. I'm not against geothermal. I'm not against OMAT. What's that name? Yes, I'm not against OMAT, but I do have questions. I recall in March 20th to 31st, the IMF visited Dominica for a discussion. During this discussion, Honorable Minister for Finance, Dr. McIntyre, stated that the island must manage its debt to GDP ratio. This came after our debt to GDP ratio in 2022 was 104.3% according to the ECCB. My question is, why are we taking more loans? Guarantee, correction, guarantee. From April to end of this year, we have came here to approve 2 loans. I'll keep on saying loans because it is a loan. My thing is, and I'm so thankful that my colleague, Minister for Tourism, mentioned CBI. And then she still mentioned we cannot put our eggs in one basket. But last I recall, everything we speak about is CBI. If not CBI, then what? On December 19, the Honorable Prime Minister had a press conference, and majority of his press conference was what? CBI. So why can't CBI? My question is, and I'm hoping I get an answer, why can't we use CBI funding to fund this project? Why put another burden, another guarantee, something we have to pay back, something, why put it on the backs of Dominicans? Your explanation is not clear. Then stand up again. I wish you could stand up again and explain it. Stand up again.
You know what I'm doing?
Point of order.
Order. Because Mr. Speaker, we are speaking to the public, we're not speaking to each other. And somebody might misinterpret and think we have to pay back. A guarantee is not something you have to pay back. It is in case something happens, you're saying it's here.
So what is the point of order?
The point of order that she misinforming the public, and I wanted to correct that, please. Let's not misinform the public. Let's just stick to the fact.
Okay, Senator, continue. The Honorable Minister was indicating that by referring to the guarantee as same as a loan. But you see, this is technical, so I don't really want to go in and get involved in this. I would ask the member to continue because I think there are members on the other side who can respond to that. You know, so I'll leave it alone. Senator, continue.
Anyways, I shall proceed. So I wanted my presentation to be very short. I only had one question. Why can't we use CBI funding? That is all I had to ask. Why can't we use CBI funding? If not CBI, then what? That's my only question. Why can't we use CBI instead of seeking a bank guarantee? I used to correct him, Honorable. What is your username, Pemberton? I forgot used to it. So that's my question to Honorable Minister of Finance. Maybe Honorable Anderson can answer me as well. And in the meantime, we are still waiting on at least 1, 2, or 3 questions as by Senator Reid to be answered. So far, I've not heard an answer to any of them. She'd like to research. Yeah. Anyway, thank you. No, she'd like to sit there.
I'll just sit there. I want to read it. I need to read it.
Yes, Honorable.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I didn't really intend to have much of a contribution this morning, but I think I am obligated to answer to the Senator on that question. To answer the question and to clarify to her, the bank guarantee we do not expect it to result in a cash flow, with the exception of the 2% fee and whatever other bank-related charges that will come with putting the guarantee in place. So the CBI funding, if it is used to cover the $270,000 or so, 2% fee, then that will be the extent of it per annum. The $13.5 million would only become a factor if the government had an early withdrawal and OMAD then exercised the guarantee, and at which point now that obligation would be converted into a loan, and then we would have the terms which are the 5% to 2 years grace period, 240 years repayment term, and so on. That would only come into effect if the government had early withdrawal, which was the sole condition that the minister, and by the way, that also answers one of the questions that Senator Henderson Reid had, as to Honorable Senator Henderson Reid asked the question as to what her question, something was under what condition would we have to pay that loan and those type of things. And that would only become a loan if the government had an early withdrawal and OMAT exercised the guarantee. In the absence of that, it is what was right. So to explain to the senator, this is what we are doing right now is not exactly taking a loan. We are taking a bank guarantee, which is a financial instrument. It's only there more or less as a guarantee. Not it doesn't result in a cash flow on a regular basis from the government of Dominica, and so the CBI is not a factor in dealing with that at this juncture.
Yes, Honorable Alfred.
Mr.
Yeah.
Speaker, I send many happy returns. Not Merry Christmas, you know. I send many happy returns to my constituents. Because I'm telling you, Kashiprus's constituency is a very happy place to be now. Eh? Mr. Speaker, I am glad that I am speaking after my colleague. You know, these are the financial people. I myself is church and school, I know. I've been saying that from the start, church and school, so I'm glad that I am speaking after them, which will prevent me from tying up myself a little with the financial thing. But I stand there as a normal Dominican girl who seemed to be hearing about geothermal for a while now, and who had all the excitement bubbling inside of me as a normal citizen. And I didn't understand some things about geothermal, and I choose to make myself smart by reading up a whole lot, and that caused me to become more excited again about the prospect. So, because when you don't know a thing, because if people think you're smart, you better present yourself smartly, you know. So you have to go and, so I read up and I excited about the geothermal, because I'm thinking that we have come too far to stop. We have come too far to turn back. The hardest part of a lot of things is foundation, and foundation is set. It is time to roll. This geothermal project is closer to the end than the beginning, and as a matter of fact, closer to completion than many of us perceive. If we read a little and we take an inventory, if you want to call it that, of what has been done and what needs to be done, you will see how close we are to closing shop. So this is why I support the resolution that we are presenting today for the authorization of bank guarantee. Now I understand it better from the sister. I hope I'm thinking well. I think it's something like a shorty. Like when you go and start, a person taking a loan, but the bank tell them they haven't got enough money, so you have to get a person that have that amount of money or more to sign for you. Yeah, so all when you pay in your thing, the person, all right. I understand it well, sister? Okay, thank you. Yeah. So that's why I stand, because I have to explain the thing to my people, you know, back home when other people try to boo-boo them. Boo-boo is like make them look stupid. So I have to know, as a teacher, a past teacher who taught many people, I have to be able to explain that to my people for them to understand it well, because I have a lot of distractors who like to distract, destruct, and disrupt. So I have to understand it well, and today is like a learning today is more of a learning process for me, man. I feel empowered. Yeah. Because there are many people, Mr. Speaker, who wish that they were in our position with the natural resource we have and what God has blessed us with. You know the amount of people who wish they were there? The cost of installing a geothermal system is huge, but the benefits are worth it, Mr. Speaker. I tell you, I read it. Mr. Speaker, by now, the Labour Party administration has proven to the Dominican people, and they know, Dominicans know, that we are not people who do things haphazardly. We count the cost, we measure the benefits, we do due diligence, we analyze, we synthesize, we evaluate, and we take informed decisions with the best interests of the Dominican people at heart. Some people cannot appreciate the hard work that those of us on this side are doing because they do nothing. When people work, they appreciate the work that others do because they understand the energy, the intellectual, and the affective that must go into certain things. So, Mr. Speaker, like everybody else, I'll say, I'm not against geothermal, no? But geothermal is not a wild plant that does shoot up and spring and bring forth fruit. Geothermal is something that requires a lot of work, a lot of money, a lot of everything. So I'm not against geothermal, no. So, Mr. Speaker, the world is going through an energy crisis. And if we position ourselves well, we will not be affected by this crisis. As a matter of fact, we will become what the Bible calls a succorer. You know the succorer? When a person says, Suku, Suku, my house burning, the people who run with buckets, they are succorers. So if we handle that well, we will become succorers to many countries. Not sorcerers, don't mix up the word, Don't get me mixed up, It's not sorcerers, Succorers. People who come to suku where you. It's in the Bible, So if we position ourselves well, we may become a succorer to many countries who will feel the bite of that energy crisis. Geothermal is like what Dominica, God placed in Dominica for us. We just didn't discover it long enough. And somebody has given me some advice and told me, if you want to be really healthy, eat with things that grow in the land, in the soil where you live. If you eat only what is grown in the soil where you live, you have a kind of a chemistry with your body and you're good. So I'm saying geothermal is something I believe that God placed there for us, But the Bible also says when the time is right, the Lord will make it happen. So maybe all the time that was there hiding there, the time was not right. The world was a kind of way. But now the world is upside down and everybody looking to see where they can put their head for energy and for oil and for this and that. It has come to light because now the time is right. Geothermal is good for the environment. It is cheaper. It is reliable. Think about Dominica Nature Island. And see if you can see what I tell you when I tell you the Lord put that there for us. It is good for the environment. It is cheaper. It is reliable. Geothermal energy cost is stable. Okay? Geothermal is quiet. It is independent and it is safe. It is future-proof and easy to maintain. Mr. Speaker, you can see I read it. That's what good teachers do, man. But to enjoy these benefits, Mr. Speaker, we must build the plant. You can enjoy the benefits if the plant's not there. We must build the plant. Mr. Speaker, you see me? I believe that God has not brought us this far to leave us. That's what I believe. Mr. Speaker, I think of the electricity bill of all the schools in Dominica. And I say, what? If we didn't have that bill, you know the number of other things we could be doing with that money every month? And with the advent of online learning, ICT in school, it is growing even higher. Mr. Speaker, I know that this project will succeed. It will come to completion. It will. And you know what happened? This is one of the projects that we are sure that will pay back its cost and bring more benefits to us. It will pay back itself. So we are going not to say you take money to go in a party now when you finish. No, you take money to do a thing to make some more money, and that is, it will pay back itself. Mr. Speaker, countries are busy researching ways to improve energy efficiency, to reduce pollution, while at the same time cut the reliance on all the different sources of energy. I still reading. When I get them, maybe next time we talk, I'll tell you all those different places. They call it hydro, natural coals, this and that. Too many different mixture. And countries, they're researching on how they can avoid all of that. And the answer is geothermal will deliver all the answers to those questions. But they're not, according to Mr. Speaker, you know I hot on the cocoa, But they not got the resources. They don't have the resources to do it. So the stress of the geothermal is the cost and whether we have enough land to sink the coils. I don't want to understand, but I'll ask Minister Henderson to explain it to me. But so I know we have enough land to sink the coils. I know that because we have already sunk a few. But Mr. Speaker, we don't have the money to cover the cost. And this is why we are taking this financial security / guarantee. And this is why I fully support the resolution. I thank you.
Yes, Senator Parrish, you may proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Morning. Proceed.
Good morning. Greetings to parliamentary colleagues. It is good to be back here. I feel like we was here last week, just 2 weeks ago, but you know, we have the people business to do. So it's nice to be back here, you know, even if it's in the holiday season, but for some of us, that's business as usual. I don't think new, so. Mr. Speaker, I rise to make some brief comments. I promise I'll try to keep it short. On the resolution before the House for debate. This is a resolution, a bank guarantee to secure the commitments made in the project financing agreement between the government of the Commonwealth of Dominica and Geothermal Power Company of Dominica 2023, owned by Armored Technologies. Before we go into all of the details, Mr. Speaker, it's nice to start with nice things first, all right? So firstly, I would like to applaud the government. Somebody clap. You check the record. I would like to applaud the government, Mr. Speaker, for finding ways, just listen. For finding ways to realize some kind of progress as it relates to the development and harnessing about geothermal potential on the island of Dominica. You can clap again. You don't agree? All right, good. Like I mentioned in my last presentation, Mr. Speaker, this is something that will be transformative for Dominica. Producing clean, sustainable, renewable energy, particularly in the way that we're looking at it, with minimizing waste, the reinjection technology. When this comes to fruition, Mr. Speaker, it will be something that will work well for our country. And Mr. Speaker, any effort that is made towards realizing that is worth applauding. So it's not to make a mockery and say, I'm not against geothermal. No. It's serious. Geothermal is something that will revolutionize the way we live in this country. It will revolutionize the way we live in this country. But Mr. Speaker, in a developing country like ours, transparency, diligence, accountability, value for money, and sustainability should always be a major part of the way we conduct our business. Because, Mr. Speaker, if we neglect those attributes of sustainable development, we miss the opportunity to get it right the first time. Mr. Speaker, the resolution before us today is a guarantee that the Minister will be providing to secure its commitments in the project financing agreement. And Mr. Speaker, the Minister did some of what he could do in terms of telling us why the guarantee is necessary now. And Mr. Speaker, let's not get all excited. We understand guarantees and so on, we understand loans and we understand the process. That's a simple thing. That's not too complicated to understand, right? The difficulty, Mr. Speaker, is where is the agreement? We don't have it. We don't see it. And at this level, Mr. Speaker, it is not unreasonable to ask hey guys, we understand that this is a process. Where's the information? Share it with us. Because clearly, if you're expecting not just parliamentarians, if you're expecting the people of this good country to get behind and support this transformative effort, you have to give them information. And the fact that we're not getting it the way that we should or that is reasonably expected speaks to our level of accountability and transparency, Mr. Speaker. So let's not confuse the issue. And let's not try to dumb down Dominicans because they understand the issue. They're just not here to say it. Transparency will help with global support for something that all of us will benefit from.
Sure.
So, Mr. Speaker, the question was, where's the agreement and why do we need to secure our partners against us defaulting? But I think the minister covered that. So we're going to move past that very quickly. But, Mr. Speaker, I am sure that that is not the only commitment that we made. I am sure that that is not the only commitment to make sure that, there's no early termination if we get a large cash injection or because somebody had a bad night that we fire the people. I'm sure that's not the only commitment that we make. So asking to see the rest of the agreement to let us understand what commitments we are making. And more than that, what is the people of Dominica supposed to be understanding during this development process, based on the commitment that we've made? There are people who live in the area. Our commitments to this development process should involve them, and they should be a part of it. They have to buy in. In other places, Mr. Speaker, right? Geothermal plants, people don't live within 70 kilometers of the nearest geothermal plant. That is not going to be the case in Dominica. Mr. Speaker, the point is, whether you heard somebody else here, but the point is, Mr. Speaker, information, people need to buy into the information and we need support. But if they don't have information and they don't know what is to be expected, it becomes difficult to support it, right? And the Minister of Energy understands that. And I'm happy that I'm speaking before him so that he can come and provide some clarity. But we're moving along. We're moving along nicely, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of cost of the plant. It's very interesting that at this time of Dominica's development, with changing global economic climate, the government is asking our only indigenous bank to put on hold $13.5 million as a guarantee to facilitate our commitments. We understand. $13.5 million, Mr. Speaker. Monies that could and should be available for small businesses in Dominica, homeowners, commercial enterprise, to be able to lend from the bank so that they can continue business in Dominica. No, but we're asking the bank to put that money on hold in the event that we default on our commitment, right? In the event. Because, Mr. Speaker, if we default, the bank don't have an option, once the partner draws down on that guarantee, the bank has to pay it. But the money must be there for the bank to be able to pay it, right? Yeah, the government has to pay it back. Mr. Speaker, the point I'm making is, I don't know why the minister is all getting hot and bothered. The point I'm making is this, Mr. Speaker. Our liquid government, the state that we are in, we should be able to deposit that little bit amount of money into the bank as a facility. Mr. Speaker, a few weeks ago we were here approving supplementary estimates of over $300 million that we had overspent.
Mr. Speaker, I want to rise
You are standing on a point of order?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
What is the point of order, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, the senator informed the House that they know a guarantee working. But his comments now doesn't suggest that. I think he's being deliberately misleading.
Yeah, but what is your point of order?
The point is he's deliberately misleading.
He's what?
He's misleading the public.
Yeah, but
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. As you to take your seat, Senator, continue. Yeah. Senator, your mic. Sorry. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, the point is our government has enough money because we have a liquid government. We should be able to make that deposit into the bank as a facility, and we should be able to do it from the sale of our passports. We should be able to
Senator, I've ruled on that sale of passport business that asked you to withdraw it. They withdraw the statement about sale of passport in the
Mr.
parliament.
Speaker, withdrawn.
Yeah.
Withdrawn.
Continue.
I'm not going to challenge your
Yeah, continue.
We can have a discussion. But Mr. Speaker, we have enough funds to be able to do that. That having this facility in the bank now, on our one indigenous bank, probably is not necessary. But Mr. Speaker, even further than that, after the amount of proceeds that we have from our citizenship by investment, exchange of over 35,000 citizenships, Mr. Speaker, construction of the plant should be a walk in the park. It should be a walk in the park. We should need a financier for that. Mr. Speaker, why do I say that? Global statistics indicate, Mr. Speaker, that the installed geothermal power in 2022 was $3,470 per kilowatt. Right? You're not listening. The year before that, in 2021, Mr. Speaker, it was $4,300 per kilowatt. Globally, yeah? Not a problem. Which demonstrates, Mr. Speaker, that it is on a downtrend. The cost per construction per kilowatt for installed geothermal power is on a downtrend. As far back as 2012, it was $5,895 per kilowatt. So, Mr. Speaker, if we're using these figures of last year, right? The construction of our plant, our 10 megawatt plant, should run us anywhere between 90 to 100 million EC dollars. Right? Mr. Speaker, we're very liquid. We are very liquid. We don't need a partner for that. We don't need a partner for that, Mr. Speaker. We should be able to do that from CBI funds. Mr. Speaker, why we are not using our own funds to do that is beyond me. I don't understand why. I don't understand why we're getting into another arrangement that is going to change the dynamic when we have funds to do it. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in my view, that is something that we will be able to brag about. Because you have people that brag about, there are other governments that didn't have anything to show for the proceeds of CBI, but this government does. But Mr. Speaker, we have spent millions of dollars on non-productive sectors. Things that are not going to generate any money. Putting money into the geothermal program is somewhere that we would be able to beat our chest about. Something that we would be able to boast about. That is somewhere where nobody would be able to question whether or not the CBI is working in Dominica. That is one area of sustainable transformative development where the CBI funds would fly. Mr. Speaker, we have gotten into arrangement, and again, all the research into the partner, this is not about whether OMAT has the capability or the capacity. That's not the conversation. That's not the conversation. We're not going there, because that is clear information. That is not what we're talking about. We're talking about how the relationship is going to benefit Dominica, right? And the expected risks and challenges that we will face. Because, Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned earlier, 100 million EC dollars. initial investment. We understand that the operational cost compared to the initial capital injection for a geothermal plant is night and day. The cost is much lower. And Mr. Speaker, what we're seeing here is that companies not here for charity. They're here to make profit. With the arrangement that we have, that initial investment of $100 million, that gets repaid or recouped in the first 5 to 8 years. And that is providing that we're using the benchmark of what electricity presently costs in Dominica, give or take a couple cents. They recoup that money in the first 5 to 7 years. And after that, it's straight profit. You're having a company, a system, an organization that's going to be benefiting from our geothermal plant after we have done all of the research, after we've put so much money into the ground, not to bury it, but to find out what was below them. And then somebody else comes and takes all of the profit. That is not going to be passed down to the people of Dominica as we expected. Mr. Speaker, the 25-year mark is an important timeline, you know. An important timeline. Why is that, Mr. Speaker? Again, global statistics. We know that the lifespan of a geothermal system ranges from 15 to 30 years. It is expected that all of the steam pumps are going to need to be replaced within 20 to 30 years. What that says, Mr. Speaker, is that after 25 years, our system is going to need a complete overhaul. Complete overhaul. That is what we will be recovering at the time. We're going to be having systems, machines, that are going to be reaching the peak of their lifespan. And that is what we're going to be taking over after that period. I see the minister smiling, maybe he knows something I don't know, but that's why he's here, so he can clarify that for us. Mr. Speaker, as a younger man, one of the things older men always told me, two things you want to stay away from: a bad woman and an old car. And Mr. Speaker, after 25 years, it seems that we're getting an old car. Praise God if we have good women still. And Mr. Speaker, 25 years is a very, very long time. 25 years is a very, very long time. Mr. Speaker, at the end of that 25 years, none of us here will still be in Parliament, you know. None of us here will still be in Parliament. Let's use this as a benchmark, Mr. Speaker. You see the length of time that this government has been in power? It's not 25 years yet, you know. And it feels like a lifetime.
Trust me.
It feels like a lifetime. So multiply that by 2 before we own and can possibly start recouping profits from our own geothermal plant. Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure if that's the arrangement we want to get into. Maybe we have to relook at something. I don't know. Maybe we need to relook at something. Mr. Speaker, another scenario that needs to be explained is the situation with Domlet. Somebody needs to be able to explain, because Mr. Speaker, somebody must have done the analysis that would indicate why Domlec shouldn't be given the challenge to be playing a lead role in the development of this geothermal exploration and geothermal plant. They've been here since 1949, providing power profitably to the people of Dominica. Since 1949. A very, very long time ago, 74 years. And now we're seeing that Domlec is now in a situation where, well, they provided profitable power up until 2018 when the country was wiped out. So that's understandable, right? We're seeing now, Mr. Speaker, that we're in a situation where the primary electricity provider on island is now going to have to buy power from somebody else. How does a company grow? How does our own company go? Now, it's buying power from somebody in a power purchase agreement that is being negotiated by the same government that controls Domlec. Mr. Speaker, I'm very fearful that we might be in a situation where we will be seeing an era where Domlec no longer exists. And that the people of Dominica now are going to be at the mercy, the unfettered profit-making mercy of someone else. Mr. Speaker, but I have some, so there comes my question. Thank you. Because we have the IRC, right? How is Domlec going to, how are we sure that the power that Domlec is now going to have to purchase and then sell to the consumer is going to be lower than what presently exists? Where is the IRC in all of this? Has, in the agreement that we have not seen, is there a cap placed on the amount or how much ORMAT or the Geothermal Power Company can sell electricity to Domlec to ensure that when Domlec sells it to the consumer, that it is lower? Has there been a cap? What is the agreement with that? Very good. Minister said he's going to answer it. So that will be good. Mr. Speaker, but not only Domlec, you know. I'm hoping the Minister of Energy can answer this. Because, Mr. Speaker, where is the Dominica Geothermal Development Company in all of this? In my mind, from what I've read, this is why the Dominica Geothermal Development Company was created. To do exactly what we're letting a foreign agency do in Dominica. What's happening with that? What is the explanation here? What happens now with the DGDC when this operation starts rolling? Because it becomes redundant in my mind. They have no place. They just disappear. Why wasn't an arrangement set up where, because we've been doing this for 15 years, I heard the minister say this, 15 years or more, almost it feels like a lifetime. If we know this, and we've created the Dominica Geothermal Development Company, why wasn't it made an arm of Domlec? Or create the company so that we can do this and own it ourselves? Because, Mr. Speaker, it's not for lack of knowledge, it's not for lack of talent. And if we lack the talent, Mr. Speaker, we don't have to give them the whole house. We can hire them from overseas. We've done that before. But you take the whole house, the bread basket and all the fruits, and you give it away. I know people are scared because they don't understand the agreement. And we're not sure that in this 25 years, if it's going to make a difference. And if it does, well, what prevented us from doing it ourselves? And these are the kinds of questions that people are asking, Mr. Speaker. Finally, Mr. Speaker, in these few words, I would like to urge us to rethink our approach. One, let's take another look at the CBI. Find it wherever it is. We have a lot of people saying that money is missing and so on and so forth, but today not that we're talking about. But we need to use our buoyant CBI funds and see how we can use it in the development of our own transformative resource and industry. Number two, let's relook at the potential with Domlec, maybe in tandem with the Dominica Geothermal Development Company, and see how we can bring that back home to ensure that we own and operate and profit from our own country, our own development, our own resource. The resource that God put there in the ground there for us that we didn't realize yet. Maybe we can own it outright. Maybe we need to relook at it. Maybe we can come back again with an amendment sometime. It's not the first time. And finally, Mr. Speaker, let's remove the insularity. Let's open up the thing. Be transparent. Share the information. And let Dominicans understand what we are involved in. Just understand the risk, the potential, and what we are going to independently, individually have to do to ensure the successful development of our country. Because, Mr. Speaker, Dominica is for all of us, and we have to build it. But we can't build it isolated. We have to build it together. And if all of us agree on everything, then some of us not necessary. And Mr. Speaker, let us ensure that all of our efforts are done in a way that we can get it right the first time. Thank you.
Well done.
Yes, Honorable Blackmore.
Mr. Speaker, I was hoping that the members on the other side could have stood up and give credit where credit is due and to speak to the real story and not to sidetrack and try to incorporate other issues. And you're not clear at the end of the presentation as to whether they're in support or not. Mr. Speaker, I want, with your permission, to be very brief and to attempt to tell the real story and to give credit where credit is due. I'm in support of this resolution before this Honorable House, and I think there's a need, of course. I heard from the Minister for Tourism thus far, who did a tremendous job in actually bringing some clarity to the whole issue of the $5 million US guarantee for a project which on the global sum of which is $63 million. And I would like for just a few seconds, Mr. Speaker, to further amplify what Honorable Dennis said just now, to say that this guarantee is precisely what it is, as contained in the agreement on item 7, from what I've read. And it's a measure to mitigate against early termination during the construction phase by the government, which means to say it is solely for the purpose of giving a guarantee that government will not terminate during the time in which the plant is being built. So that guarantee will be given back, to be transferred back to the government immediately upon the commissioning of the plant. And there's a time period, therefore, that is stipulated in the agreement that speaks to 24 months. So it is proposed, therefore, that the construction phase for that plant will be 24 months. So that guarantee we speak of is for a period of 24 months. And it is not tying the government to the principle of the loan that to be acquired or contracted for the construction of the plant, which is $63 million. So that is what, and the reason why I'm saying that, Mr. Speaker, it is very sad that you have people, intellectuals they call themselves, who are gathering consistently on the altar of political patronage. And their sole purpose, therefore, is to pull away what is good for this country, to undermine this country's development, and to destroy this country. So if you, for matter of fact, if you are an economist, you're a social science person, you're a science person, which relies on empirical facts, you make a reference to the document, analyze the document, and edify the public who is less educated. But I think it is dangerous, Senator Paris, for folks to know better, to be engaging consistently in an attempt to undermine the progress of this country, Mr. Speaker, and I wanted to say that. Mr. Speaker, let us tell the real story that needs to be told, Mr. Speaker, as we seek to develop our potential in geothermal energy, Mr. Speaker. And the Labour Party government, therefore, must be commended, Mr. Speaker, for finally ensuring that that geothermal energy will be transmitted to the national grid to the benefit of all and sundry in this country, Mr. Speaker. And that is what we ought to be talking about. And why do I say that, Mr. Speaker? We are seeing, you have seen it in the actual construction of the international airport, that this administration is transforming ancient dreams into reality. Now, let us go back, Mr. Speaker, to 1969. 1969, Vince Honorable Dr. Hennessy was not born yet. Well, I don't know what you were born. And I don't know. And the Prime Minister was not born yet, Mr. Speaker. But the UNDP did a study in 1969, Mr. Speaker, that speaks to the development of geothermal energy in this country. In 1969, it's not something that emerged yesterday. You had Frank Barron, and just name it, and it is gone. May his soul rest in peace. Were you born yet, Mr. Speaker? I don't think so. Right? No, Mr. Speaker, then in 1974, Iyo LeBlanc, may his soul rest in peace, right, spoke about the potential and the need for us to develop that resource. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, we have the Geothermal Development Act that was enacted into law in 1974, Mr. Speaker. 1974. Because, Mr. Speaker, they saw the potential then. And then, Mr. Speaker, you had the Freedom Party era, and then before that, you had your era, United Workers era, your one era, Mr. Speaker. You see, nothing was done except we had the West Indies poor, Honorable Anderson, but nothing was done. Why is the Labour Party getting it done? Why? I want to get to that just now, but before I do, Mr. Speaker, in 1973, exactly 50 years ago, the world experienced the first oil crisis. The first oil crisis. And all governments, Mr. Speaker, placed at the fore energy security. 50 years thereafter, we in the sub-region are still in the same predicament, Mr. Speaker. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Ancient dreams. No, Mr. Speaker. We shall be the first in the sub-region, except Guadeloupe, who shall develop geothermal to the point where it is transmitted to a national grid to the benefit of the national economy. And Dominicans, Mr. Speaker, that is what they're not talking about, Mr. Speaker. They're not talking about that. They're not talking about it. Because why? They're politically struggling. For them, if that thing happens, it's going to make the government look good. The prospect to win will be no more. So let's just defonce that thing, Mr. Speaker. That is what it's all about. It has nothing to do about caring about...
Interpret, défausser.
Défoncer is to mash up, décaler.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, destroy. Okay? Okay? Mr. Speaker, sad situation, Mr. Speaker. It's very sad. We need to talk about it. So now, Mr. Speaker, now, going back with the advent of the Labour Party in 2000, Honorable Minister made reference to it just now. What we did, because there was not the political will before and a commitment to develop the geothermal energy. Mr. Speaker, the development of geothermal energy is very tedious. It's a difficult enterprise, exercise. You go back to Costa Rica, you go to New Zealand, you get the experience. You know it, you can read, you read on it, you can see it. These are bigger economies, Mr. Speaker. And it took them years because you have to do the research. Now, if you're going to explore geothermal or develop geothermal, you must do the exploration. Before you do the exploration, you have to do the research. And that is what we did by engaging the French and to do the research in the valley area to see as to whether the potential exists. On the completion of the research, Mr. Speaker, we then decided to do the exploration. We did 3 test wells. Well 1, well 2, and well 3 in the Loader and water away from catchment area. Then we went further, and we established, Mr. Speaker, the geothermal unit to supervise and to give technical oversight during the drilling exercise of the test wells. Then we had the testing done, and it was established, and there are scores of literature. See that there? I have my book there still. All right? Yeah, look at there. Right there. Well, she can read upside down. Scores of literature that speaks to the quality of the resource in the valley area. Then you have Dr. Henderson. What we did, we brought the best involved in the world in the science, the Clinton Foundation, the World Bank, and just name it. It was Dr. Henderson who introduced the minister then, yours truly, in 2007, 2008, thereabout, to the Clinton Foundation at the Hilton Hotel in Barbados, Mr. Speaker. And they have been there for us, giving us guidance. So the Labour Party just we wake up this morning, Prime Minister was scared, was not just drinking coffee, and just said, let's do the geothermal. As you guys put in on the street, it is intellectually dishonest to do that. It is, and you must stop that because you're a young man. Stop it, don't be part of that foolishness. Okay? All right? So, I didn't call the name, I said you must stop it. So if you use your name, that's a business. Understand?
Yes, the minister is right, he didn't call a name. So proceed.
So if you use your name,
yeah.
As for no one, I will say, you said it.
Let the minister proceed.
Yes, the camera. Well, I'll crack my eyes for the purpose of the exercise. No. So, Mr. Speaker, we have done all that. Now they were saying, when are we going to have geothermal? They were asking about that. We have wasted money. But they've been saying that. You see? No, Mr. Speaker, you're an engineer, natural science, you're a science guy. You studied well, but the whole concept of membet mempoil took over you.
We interpret, and you know you like to talk about that one, so interpret that one.
Well, similar, same animal.
Same animal, same year, or same fur.
Yeah, the same fur. Yeah. Now, Mr. Speaker, that's all right. So, Mr. Speaker, these guys, of course, intellectual dishonesty, and you know that. Because to come on the radio, folks, and to be misleading the public, and you have the information that can be researched, what can you refer to that? So, Mr. Speaker, the Labour Party has been very deliberate in ensuring that this thing was done properly, Mr. Speaker. Now we are Mr. Speaker, at the point of the construction of the plant, which they have been asking for. Now, if you're an environmentalist, or if you are a civil engineer, Mr. Speaker, it seems to me that you have to be interested in climate change. It seems to me, therefore, you should be focused, Mr. Speaker, and happy that we are trying to decarbonize the energy grid. This is what you should be talking about, Mr. Speaker. So you cannot be talking on both sides of your mouth. I've never seen a human being with two tongues so far. It's one tongue. If you have two tongues, you're not a human being. You get my point? You're something else. So you have to speak at one side of your mouth, Mr. Speaker. You see, and he's a bright guy. We only live in Maui. I went by him once or twice, and I know where you live. You see, I want to power up then. But you stood up well, Mr. Speaker. Yeah. You speak up, general area, not at home, general area. All right? So, Mr. Speaker, I can tell you where you live. All right? So, Mr. Speaker, you stood up there, started to make a good point, but you failed to support because you failed to hear what the radical and the hardcore Workers' Party people are going to say. So you're moving around and trying to be slippery. You can't be slippery inside there. Because you're too big to be slippery, you'll fall down. You'll fall down, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, the plant is being built at a cost of $63 million, Mr. Speaker. We have dispelled the whole notion of the government having to guarantee a loan and take full liability. That was never the intention, Mr. Speaker. Now is the time for action, Mr. Speaker. And if you are talking about trying to encourage energy-intensive companies, Mr. Speaker, fundamental to that is to have lower energy costs, Mr. Speaker. We are building the airport. We are building, of course, new hotels. All these establishments, Mr. Speaker, are energy-intensive establishments. So if you're talking about the economy is bad, we cannot compete. Now we're trying to actually make some improvement in terms of our comparative, ability, okay, to be able to compete, Mr. Speaker. They're against it. So they're not for the country, Mr. Speaker. You cannot be, Mr. Speaker, against everything that is good for this country. Now, he spoke. I had no intention of speaking and going to him, because he's trying to be cool these days. Right? But he spoke about things about housing, which is use the money, the country is very liquid. But they are, during the Christmas celebration, all about on their faceless blogs, saying about the economy broke, you cannot pay workers. Today he stands there and says the government is very liquid. You see what I'm saying? So conveniently, Tutong man. Next week Monday, you've got to spend my life, I'm going to play a song for you. Tutong man, listen to it. You say, you have one tongue, not the two tongue. You're supposed to have one tongue, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I stand on this, Mr. Speaker, very happy, Mr. Speaker, to see, Mr. Speaker, that this Labour Party administration, under the leadership of Richard Skerry, who was not born in 1969 yet, Kasani Honorable was not born yet. Most of the people on that side of the house were not born yet. When the first study was done by the UNDP, all right, 1969, then Neil Black came and said, we have potential, it was not done. Mistrust may your soul rest in peace with Western this power. Okay? Now, the only party that is getting this done is the Dominica Labour Party, Mr. Speaker. And that is what they cannot take. That's what they cannot take. And then, just in Guadeloupe there, at the minister then we went to Guadeloupe to see the geothermal thing. Now they talk about the environment. They have not studied, and the honorable minister will talk about it. You're an engineer. What is the binary plan that we're building? The system, which is closed, is not open. You get my point? Those are the issues that you can talk about as a scientist in your field to educate the public. I'm a social science person. You are not. You get my point? And I think that it is high time as we move into the new year for especially the younger generation to liberate themselves and to put Dominica first. And it happens then that the Labour Party had to occupy office for a long time. That was a purpose, an intention, to confront the many big things that no other party in the history of this country could have confronted, Mr. Speaker. And they are there for you to see. The airport, the cable car, the geothermal, and just name it. 5-star hotels, the best road infrastructure in the Caribbean, Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding our topography and our challenges. I was in St. Lucia a couple of weeks ago. The people were coming, Mr. Speaker, with permission for a World Crown Music Festival, and they're saying to me, Mr. Speaker, they love Dominica, they love the road network. Yes. They love Dominica, is moving. So we are going to ensure that Dominica becomes a global player, Mr. Speaker, in the next couple of years, Mr. Speaker. With our geothermal energy program on stream, with our airport on stream, with the marina coming, and the improvement to the Roseau physical infrastructure, and the investment we have done in our human resource base, especially our young people, Mr. Speaker, this country is moving forward, Mr. Speaker, with the right party in office, Mr. Speaker. And that is why you guys cannot take. So what you can do is not too late. Because you guys talk to me bilaterally. Yeah, it's not too late. We speak outside, we speak bilaterally, we speak one-on-one. Okay, we speak one-on-one, and that's a fact. Okay, what you can do, it's not too late. You can walk across if you want. Is that space for you, Mr. Speaker? In the only place, The only person is the Dominican Labour Party right there, Mr. Speaker. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? So you expect, Mr. Speaker, as I wind up, not to support what is good for the country and to make any headway politically? You are against housing for the poor. Huh? You are against housing, but of course, you said, yeah. I said,
Your mic, your mic.
This senator is imputing improper motive, Mr. Speaker, and you have to retract that.
Yeah, exactly
Because
what he
saying,
said.
He is saying that I am against housing for the poor. That is not true.
No, well, that not,
Mr.
I
Speaker,
mean,
you have to retract
you
it.
know,
It's not
no, you
true.
don't necessarily have to retract it.
Mr. Speaker,
I mean, that's his opinion. That's his opinion.
No, but Mr. Speaker, that is imputing improper
No,
motive.
but
That
you
is
could
not
say,
true.
you could say that is not true.
Nowhere in my presentation.
That's his opinion.
In any one of my presentations,
No,
and I
no,
get
no.
against that. You cannot say
Honorable
something
Minister,
like
continue. Senator, that's his opinion. So we can proceed, Honorable Minister.
the English language has the most difficult vocabulary. Now, you said the non-productive sector. I made my interpretation, Mr. Speaker. You said it. You did not qualify it, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, that's what they're against. They're against housing. We waste the money in education. We waste the money on the airport. Okay, they call it, what do they call it? An NEP. They're against everything. So, Mr. Speaker, the future is brighter with this administration on that side. This is the only party with the programs and projects that are responsive to the needs of the Dominican public. And we know that. But, Mr. Speaker, as I end, I support this measure. I think it has taken us a long time. And let us see how it goes, Mr. Speaker. And I would like your permission, as we end this new year, to wish everyone, every member of this honorable house, a happy new year. And, Mr. Speaker, I want to wish every Dominican a happy new year. And I know there are a number of people, Dominicans living overseas, especially those in England, who really like to follow the house, and thank you very much. Please come back. But I particularly, Mr. Speaker, want to call on Dominicans to be a little more tolerant of each other. As we move into the new year, Mr. Speaker, with a record number of projects that are meant to transform this country, now is our time to play our part and to be each other's keeper. And we have to try to solve our differences without resorting to violence, without the taking of human life, Mr. Speaker. We had this very sad situation in the community last night, and I already call on Dominicans, and especially communities, to stand for each other and to be each other's keeper, Mr. Speaker. The police will continue to do what it has to do to intensify its effort, but we as individuals, Mr. Speaker, as community, as family, as the churches, have to play a role in making our people. I want to refer to that song, which I think we need to play more often on the radio, from King Hunter, when he's calling on a gentler and kinder nation, Mr. Speaker. We need a gentler and kinder nation, Mr. Speaker. This country is too small to have this kind of bad blood. And again, Mr. Speaker, those of us who are involved in the political field, those of us who are involved in radio and various forms of other mass forms of communication, must simmer down our rhetoric, Mr. Speaker. Because those things, if you, every time you put on the radio, you hear a negative stuff, that can impact on your psyche. It's set today in a very bad light, Mr. Speaker. It is time for us to embrace each other and support the best party in the political history of this country, the Dominican Labour Party, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Yes, Honorable Laville, you are recognized. You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It is always my distinguished pleasure to follow my veteran brother, Honorable Blackmore, from the esteemed village of Maho. I want to thank you, sir, for your service and your dedication throughout the years and your wonderful contribution to the House, as always. And I saw he took a gentleman to school, a gentleman from Marigot, and I really hope he took some notes. Mr. Speaker, while I am on my feet, I wish to say and express the season's greetings to all of you who are here in this house today, my fellow parliamentarians, also to the wonderful, the beloved people of Dominica, and especially the wonderful constituents of Mau. May God enthrone all of them with his wonderful grace throughout 2024. Mr. Speaker, in following from Honorable Blackmore, when he spoke, Mr. Speaker, of intelligence, Mr. Speaker, I wish to suggest that going into the new year, we reflect on and we consider working on a new point of order, Mr. Speaker, where we address willful ignorance, Mr. Speaker, because the assertions from the other side, Mr. Speaker, is very concerning. And when I listen to the senator from Marigot, and I reflect,
No, the senator
Delbert Paris.
Yes, no, the senator from Marigot.
Senator, the Honorable Delbert Paris. I almost said Palace because of the grandeur that he purports, Mr. Speaker. I think of a child, and because I have children, and I can't forgive my children and Dominican children, let alone all children, for being scared of the dark, Mr. Speaker. But I cannot forgive a grown man, a civil engineer, a parliamentarian for being scared of the light, Mr. Speaker. It's concerning. And going forward, we ought to look at this, Mr. Speaker, a point of order as it relates to willful ignorance, Mr. Speaker. In the ethos of transparency, openness, and responsibility, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to have the opportunity to speak of our developments and our pursuits as a government in geothermal energy, Mr. Speaker. First of all, our government's decision to embark on this crucial initiative, Mr. Speaker, that certainly shows tremendous foresight of a government. I recall in my years working as an engineer in the Ministry of Public Works under the astute leadership of Honorable Blackmore, who was then my minister, being in meetings on Mondays when the geothermal unit was within that ministry. While I did not work there, but we had our Monday meetings, and I would hear, and I could see that stellar leadership and command, and to convert something that was a promise to Dominica into policy and action, Mr. Speaker. And that is something that we see is now manifesting. And when I look further to my left in the person of Honorable Dr. Vince Henderson, a man for the past 15 to 20 years has committed his life to the pursuit of geothermal energy in Dominica, that must be honored in some way. And our dear Prime Minister, who has had every reason, Mr. Speaker, to say that we cannot pursue this when we think of the challenges that we have faced, the climatic challenges that we have faced, the global fiscal challenges that we have faced. He has had every reason to say we cannot pursue this anymore. But no, we are here today by the grace of God, by the resolve of this great Dominican Labour Party, Mr. Speaker. We are here today. And on the other side, Mr. Speaker, when they speak about rate of returns, because that's all they are concerned about, Mr. Speaker, rate of returns, and when will it start? After 25 years, right? That's what they're concerned about, Mr. Speaker. And 25 years, being so scared of 25 years, Mr. Speaker, like it's doom and gloom. But when I reflect on what 25 years means, Mr. Speaker, I'm taken back to UWP because they have been in opposition for near 25 years and they know they are dead, Mr. Speaker. And that is why they are possibly concerned about the state of our plant in 25 years. But there's nothing to be concerned about. Because like Honorable Octavia Alfred stated, we think, we synthesize, we plan, and the agreement is bulletproof. So we are safe. We do not deliberately and willfully put Dominican citizens at risk. That is completely opposite from what this great Dominican Labour Party does. We stand for the people and do everything we do, it's our vocation to honor the people and ensure that we improve their lives and their very circumstance, Mr. Speaker. I heard there's talk about CBI, Citizenship by Investment Program, and that we are so liquid and that we should use this to finance everything. Mr. Speaker, that shows tremendous immaturity from the other side. And our fiscal management is much more sophisticated than that. And you have to try your best to avert risk as much as possible, Mr. Speaker. And like we say, put our eggs in different baskets. And this is all we're doing by adopting a different strategy. That's the build, operate, and transfer model. So, Mr. Speaker, we're spreading the risk. Something that they did not know and understand from 1995 to 2000 when they Kool-Aid the government. And if you want to seek clarification, they brought Dominicans to their knees to the point of bankruptcy and mendicancy, Mr. Speaker, because they did not understand financial management and prudence. They did not understand, Mr. Speaker. And they might, and Mr. Speaker, while they are over there on the other side, Mr. Speaker, acting like they're independent, Mr. Speaker, if you look very closely, today you might see that veil over them, over people who mask as independents. But when you look through that transparent veil, Mr. Speaker, you see UWP representatives on the other side, Mr. Speaker. It's clear for all to see. And it's in their actions, their utterances, this doom and gloom, Mr. Speaker, to come here, like Honorable Blackmore said, to speak with two tongues. That is what you're seeing. On one hand, you are stating what appears to be fact. Then as you finish saying it, you're asking a question about the very same thing that you just said was a fact. That's the two tongues, Mr. Speaker. That's the doom and gloom. To come here and suggest that Ormat is going to seek to take over Domlek in a couple years, it's so untrue, it's disingenuous, Mr. Speaker. We have no plans of that. As a government, what we have done for Domlek is to secure Domlek. On the other hand, the people you are tethered to, they sold it. They disposed of it, a vital, valuable asset. But we have protected it and invested in it. Complete opposite. You have no moral authority to come and speak to government sentiments about protecting and securing power in Dominica and speaking of our energy security. You have no moral and professional obligation to do so. Absolutely none. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that I can't remember which senator alluded to it, but reference was made to a press conference that the Honorable Prime Minister had about a week ago, where he made mention to many of the projects that are funded by the CBI. I'm happy that they were able to say that. And that was in response to a question that was asked about what is being done with CBI money. And it's clear to see, and I'm happy that they listened. I'm very happy that they did. Because when we think of our airport project, we're investing well over $1 billion of CBI money and CBI investment. It's clear to see that we are prudent. It's clear to see that we are responsible. It's clear to see that we have, in fact, protected this much-needed sector. And it's clear to see by our actions today, by taking a new approach with BOT, that we are not stressing this sector, that we are not, in fact, coming to the public and purporting as if this sector is inexhaustible. We are not doing so. We're responsible, Mr. Speaker. And we are taking a new approach, a different approach, Mr. Speaker, with the development of the power plant. And to also come here and appear to, with, again, willful ignorance, that, or maybe it's in fact ignorance, that you don't understand what a guarantee is, and to almost suggest like that's the cost of building the plant. $60 million to develop the plant.
Yes, Senator.
Mr. Speaker, Point of order. Mr. Speaker, I note your tolerance in allowing the minister to continually impute improper motive on members on the other side by calling them willfully ignorant. I note your tolerance on. But Mr. Speaker, that is not something you should be tolerating. It is improper. It is out of character for the House.
Okay.
And the minister, I noticed that he's very emotional and so that's okay, but he has to take, he cannot disrespect the House.
Okay. Yeah, you may take your seat. Yeah. So, Minister, our more rule in regards to the unparliamentary tone, so not to it coming out as an attack continuously. So I agree with him. You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I respect your good office as always. There's no attack from me at all, but to merely respond to what I have heard, Mr. Speaker, and a lot has been said about us. A lot has been said about the presentations from our side, Mr. Speaker. I have taken my time on this paper, as you see here, to write down many of the utterances, the innuendos, the assertions, the falsehoods, Mr.
Honorable
Speaker.
Minister, you don't have to go through that, just a caution.
So and I accept your caution, Mr. Speaker, but I'm just merely attempting to say, Mr. Speaker, that a lot has been said, Mr. Speaker, and I have heard also on the other side, and it appears to be who the cap fits, Mr. Speaker, but a lot has been said, Mr. Speaker, and it is only fair to the people of Dominica that there ought to be some level of clarification. My last point, Mr. Speaker, while I was clarifying, was about this assertion that was made, this suggestion that OMAT may seek to own Domlec in 25 years. How can I not respond to that, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, I must speak to that. Because what in fact we have, to a large extent, is a quadripartite agreement, Mr. Speaker. And to come and suggest that in time we are going to...
Yes, I prefer that approach. Yes. If you deal with each matter, not the person, because I don't want us to get involved in personalities. So each matter, deal with it. Say nonsense in parliament like that is side talk, but it's unparliamentary too. Yeah, so let's just proceed. But yes, Honorable Minister, I prefer that approach.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Mr. Speaker, I've heard assertions also too that the approach for BOT is something that we should review, Mr. Speaker. Everyone has an opportunity to give their story, but there are tremendous benefits from this approach that we are seeking to take today. Of course, there's the risk aversion factor, but also the tremendous technical skills that we will benefit from with this approach. I heard the suggestion was made that Domlec should have been given the challenge, Mr. Speaker, to build and operate the plant, Mr. Speaker. We take the business of Dominican people very seriously, and something as important as securing energy and securing the future of people and building an environment that is ready for investment is not one that we view casually as a challenge that you're going to throw around, Mr. Speaker. Our government is much more mature than that. And hence the reason why we saw that there's prudence and good judgment in working and collaborating closely with a company that has tremendous repute and experience in developing geothermal power plants. We're not taking a chance with this, Mr. Speaker. We believe in our people, we believe in our potential, but we are also very realistic, Mr. Speaker. And that is part of the reason why we have considered OMAT. They have tremendous experience. We understand the dynamics that are involved in building and operating a power plant, Mr. Speaker. They have tremendous experience doing that, and they will assist with maintaining this plant properly and ensuring that the highest level of efficiency is used and fostered in building and operating to ensure that we get results for our people. The assertion was also made, Mr. Speaker, that when will we benefit? Will it be in 25 years? The people of Dominica, Mr. Speaker, will benefit from the very minute, the very moment that we start benefiting from improved and decreased energy rates, Mr. Speaker. So it is all there for us to benefit from. In terms of this particular arrangement, there's the knowledge transfer aspect that is also critical, it's vital, and it's something that our young people particularly and our people in the field will benefit from. It's tremendous knowledge and experience. So there are tremendous opportunities for all of us. The assertion was also made that the people from the valley, that part of the country, are not necessarily being sensitized. They don't know what's going on. This is furthest from the truth. I remember as far back as in 2011, and again, it could be even before that. That dates back to my experience, 2010, 2011, with the Ministry of Public Works, when the government, through the unit that Honorable Blackman spoke about, they hired someone in PR, all right, a social scientist, to work with the people to ensure that they understood clearly what was going on. So basically, this person's job was to understand this technical language and present it to the people in a way that they truly understand. So they know the risk, they know the challenges, they know the opportunities, and they can leverage on these very opportunities. There are many benefits from the people in the valley, as you see. Even now, Honorable Dr. Mark may speak to you about it, but many people in the valley are working now, even on this aerial tram project. And this also presents numerous opportunities for the people in the valley as well. Not only that, people will be coming down, they require residences, places to rent, and so on. This is a wonderful opportunity for the people. So when we speak of returns on investment and so on, Mr. Speaker, this government is all about people. Everything we do and we stand for, it's for people. And we will continue to invest in our people by the decisions, the prudent decisions that we take as a government. Mr. Speaker, with that being said, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present. And I really ask that going forward in this new year, 2024, that we take this opportunity as parliamentarians to elevate ourselves and to review our assertions and what we say and what we do and how we present ourselves. We have an opportunity, a noble opportunity and responsibility to speak truth and honesty and to guide the people of Dominica as responsibly and as prudently as we can. We have that responsibility. And I'm asking us to delve deep within our minds, our collective consciousness, Mr. Speaker, to bring truth to people and remove the tinted vision that we sometimes have, Mr. Speaker, and bring truth and light to the good people of Dominica. Once again, thank you and happy holidays and blessed New Year to all the good people of Dominica, and I fully endorse this resolution.
Yes, before we proceed, Honorable Minister, I really appreciate your temperament and how you dealt with the ruling, but I just want to caution the House on both sides. And the Honorable Minister mentioned it. If some people are more diplomatic in their insertions, but sometimes I let it slide. But for example, Honorable Paris, some of what you said was imputing improper motive, but nobody stood up, so I left it alone. But that is why sometimes members respond. But I didn't want the House to end up in a major dispute and debate on who is making certain insertion. So thank you, Minister. And Honorable Paris, you are guided by my statement for the new year, you know? So I think it's a good debate. Both sides making their point. So let's continue. Yes, Honorable Grant, recognize, you may proceed.
Season's greeting to you, Mr. Speaker, and to the rest of the House. Just a brief intervention, Mr. Speaker. I stand here today to give my unconditional support to this resolution before us, Mr. Speaker. Before I do that, Mr. Speaker, I must give commendation to the Honorable Prime Minister for his leadership in this geothermal process. Also, Mr. Speaker, I would like to express our heartfelt thanks, Mr. Speaker, to Dr. Henderson for the work he has put in for this project. Mr. Speaker, our leaders must be commended for their pursuit of this geothermal project. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to express thanks and commendations to the former Parrot of the Valley, Mr. Speaker, Dr. Colin McIntyre, as he has done a lot of work, Mr. Speaker, in that project, as well as Honorable Irvin McIntyre, who is now the parliamentary representative for this beautiful place called the Valley. Mr. Speaker, I spent 2.5 years on the geothermal project, Mr. Speaker, so I have some insight and understanding into this project. And the people of the Valley have been fully involved, Mr. Speaker, and they continue to be involved in this because I have been part of several community meetings while on the project. But Mr. Speaker, it's important that we recommend that this project is being driven by Dominicans, Mr. Speaker. A lot of hard work went in. The staff of the Dominica Geothermal Development Company, Mr. Speaker, they are all Dominicans, Mr. Speaker. We have Mr. Fred John, former employee Lynn John, Gary Shillingford, Alan Tousse, and a young Dominican, Mr. Speaker, who is also an engineer and trained in New Zealand in geothermal studies, Dalton Elwa. Mr. Speaker, so you see that we have been planning for this for a long time, Mr. Speaker. So today is a good day because we have a group of Dominicans who are committed to building and not destroying Dominica for future generations. Mr. Speaker, we need resilience in the energy sector. As we've seen during Maria, there was no damage to the wells, and this speaks volume to the resilience of the sector. So, yes, we had a few setbacks, Mr. Speaker, but we are here today and we are pushing forward. We know that energy security is going to be key for the international airport, Mr. Speaker, and I am too very much happy that this geothermal is on stream. Mr. Speaker, I will not go into the whether it's a loan or guarantee because I think my colleagues explained that clearly, and the opposition got a very good lesson in Finance 101. Mr. Speaker, I just hope that they took some notes. Mr. Speaker, we heard of OMAT, and sometimes it's important that the Dominican public understands that this is an American company. This company is traded on the New York Stock Exchange, Mr. Speaker. And what it speaks volume, Mr. Speaker, not just of the government, but of the country and where the country is now, Mr. Speaker, that you have an American company willing to invest its money in a small island developing state, Mr. Speaker. And this is what we should be singing from the opposition side, Mr. Speaker, because this is commendable, not because I'm part of the government, Mr. Speaker, but because I'm a Dominican, Mr. Speaker, and I'm proud to be part of this government at this time. Mr. Speaker, had we gone through the CBI, we would have heard criticisms. Had we did a commercial loan, Mr. Speaker, the opposition would have come here and criticized. It is sad that after all these years of investing in our people, I would not say non-productive sector, Mr. Speaker, it's investment in our people, our housing, our education, and Mr. Speaker, at the last sitting, it would be in the hands that Senator Parrish should go back and check the notes. I remind the Senator about empathy, Mr. Speaker. And when we see our Dominican brothers and sisters benefiting, whether through education, whether through housing, whether through the NEP, Mr. Speaker, we must not be upset about this, Mr. Speaker. We are not all equal. We don't have all means. All of us did not go to school. I have a mortgage, Mr. Speaker. I had a student loan. Some of us were not fortunate enough to have those things, Mr. Speaker. So we should not be criticizing it as non-productive sector, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, they often ask where is the money and it should be used elsewhere. We have seen the investment in Dominicans because I know, Mr. Speaker, Senator Parrish would be very upset that our money is going to foreigners and not local contractors. And where are we not investing in our local contractors, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, I believe that this geothermal spells well for our country. Of the future generations of this country, Mr. Speaker, are looking forward to a bright future, Mr. Speaker, and I believe that not only the geothermal will be here for another 25 years, Mr. Speaker, but the Dominican Labour Party as well, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Honorable. I should call you Doctor because it's geothermal now. Dr. Vincent, understand? Proceed, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for your kind words. I do not profess to be an expert in the field, but I will say that the last 20 plus years seeking to get this project going has been a great education, and having myself invested personally and financially of my time and money to pursue a doctoral degree in research in energy policy, I think I may have something that I can add to this discussion. Mr. Speaker, I feel humbled to rise in support of a resolution which will take us one step closer to realizing the decarbonization of our electricity sector. Since the 1950s, Dominica has taken the lead in utilizing its natural resources for the generation of electricity by way of our hydro power plants. Since then, Dominica has always demonstrated its ambition to pursue geothermal power. And it seems as if it's the Dominica Labour Party that has a great tradition of moving Dominica towards that direction. Since it was the Labour's administration in 1974 that took that bold step through an act of parliament to pursue geothermal power in 1974. So we are in keeping on to that tradition, and I'm happy to be a small part of that process. But Mr. Speaker, you know, as a good student, I took my time and I prepared my notes. And although I am not very good at doing what some of my parliamentary colleagues do usually, since I am a little restless, my mind is always racing and it's difficult to read through a script because and that's why I don't even like them printed. I prefer them, in an electronic format because I always change a thing here or there or the other. But I'm struggling. I've been listening to the comments this morning, and definitely will not be able to go to those profound words that I prepared to share with the Parliament and with the public. So, and I think also it would be remiss of me and perhaps, unpardonably arrogant not to respond to those concerns that have been raised by my colleagues right here, and not to perhaps express some responses to those that have been expressed out of here, but I thank the members of the opposition side for bringing them in here. And, Senator Paris, I do apologize for my outburst, albeit an aside, because I think you're a gentleman that I think, you have a long way to go. And seeking to import into the Parliament some of the absurdities that have been expressed out there is a bit unfortunate. So I'll give you a little lesson on that. In 2002, as a gentleman who was once a member of the Dominica Labour Party cabinet, who excluded himself voluntarily because he felt that we were not prepared to protect the whales. And that same gentleman introduced me to a company out of Canada. I don't remember which province. But they call themselves the United Networks of the Eastern Caribbean. And their objective was to develop geothermal energy throughout the Caribbean. And I remember meeting with that gentleman at the Fort Young Hotel right around the corner. And at another occasion, somewhere in Castle Comfort or Beaubois, up in the bush there, where there was once some sort of eco facility. And he was anxious for us to pursue geothermal energy. He was so convinced he wanted us to sign an agreement with UNEC, they were called. But I did some quick research. By the time we didn't have nice internet like we have today, but I still was able to do some quick check. And I remember asking the guys, and by the way, I was a little boy at that time. I was never 30 yet. I was green. I just come in the thing. So I didn't know much. But I started asking questions, and there was another young man from Vickers who was with me at one of those meetings, and he was a member of parliament for that constituency. And we asked a simple question. So, what is your experience in geothermal? Well, not really, but we think we can bring together the resources. How much do you have to invest? Well, about 50,000 Canadian dollars that we have started. But we said, but from what you said, you need millions of dollars to do this thing. So we run them away. And the next thing I know, that gentleman went on the radio and said that we allowed an excellent opportunity to pass Dominica, and he brought the gentleman to St. Lucia. Today, St. Lucia is still saddened with that bad deal. This gentleman convinced the government of St. Lucia to sign an agreement with UNEC. UNEC signed that agreement, and today the government of St. Lucia cannot get out of it because they want to do like Dominica, to pursue geothermal energy. I was able to even identify and mobilize resources for them through our organization, SIDSDOC. We're able to get the World Bank to move into St. Lucia, but they got stuck because of that deal that same gentleman brought to Dominica. Now today, the man is an authority on geothermal that you listen to. My friend, I would suggest to you, it costs about how much? 80 euros to go to Guadeloupe on the ferry? Take your 80 euros, go to Guadeloupe, ask them when you get to the port, just ask them for a little village called Bouillant. Get a taxi, go to Bouillant, and you will see a geothermal power plant in the middle of a little village by the seaside. That power plant has been operating since 1983, I think, somewhere thereabout. The power plant has been there, and that power plant was acquired by OMAT recently, expanded from 10 to 15 megawatts, and are now seeking to expand it to 30 megawatts, right in the middle of a village, 70 miles, 70 kilometers. I listened to that gentleman, because I was in the environmental movement in my youth. I was a science teacher. I taught chemistry and integrated science, and I was always excited about science and environment and all this thing. I run the science club and tried all these things. So I really listened to this man. Now coming and talking some absurdity about drilling into rivers and 70-mile buffer zone. I went to, how is it called? Waikari or in New Zealand. It's an indigenous name. It's named by the indigenous people. I visited a power plant there. We had a meal just less than a mile from the power plant because there was a restaurant there. 70 miles, 70 kilometers from habitation. And you come here and repeat this foolishness and you know better. I mean, my brother, you could do a simple Google search and you will find that there are about 26 countries in the world with geothermal power. About 26 countries. And I visited the plant in New Zealand. I was 60 years old. And again, to answer your question, as if the thing mashed up after 25 years. It's an interesting point. I get your point. You might have to overhaul. But if you're going to overhaul a vehicle, well, unless you have a really old vehicle, it should be cheaper than buying a new one. I mean, and if you're looking at an agreement for 15 years, for 25 years, you would expect maintenance, which is planned. And by the way, the agreements that we have provide for maintenance. And those maintenance must be demonstrably responsible, ensuring the sustainable use of that resource. It is part of the agreement, and it will be part of everything that is done. So that by the time you get to the 25th year, you don't have a derelict. You have something that is functioning. Now, it is also in the interest of OMAT, as a publicly listed and traded company in the New York Stock Exchange, to ensure that they got their own reputation. So that they must maximize their profit, yes, not unfettered. It is regulated because we have one of the few regulators for electricity in the entire Caribbean. We have had the IRC since 2006, and we have developed the competence. It's been headed by Mr. Justin Case, who worked with us in geothermal company as well. And they have the competence. We have had the benefit of consultants. So they know the stuff. So we are able to regulate the company in the sale of power. But I will speak to that a little. So OMAT, unlike what I know, Mr. Speaker, you're not supposed to bring in people who are not in Parliament into the debate. But if a man is a public figure, he leads a political party, I should be able to call his name, eh? But I don't need to call his name. But let's say he's the leader of the UWP. Mr. Speaker, when, a gentleman who works in a very troubled part of the world, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think, nothing wrong with that. But rather than staying in Dominican seeking to solve the problems, you're not even checking to find out. A little Google search, you might say, according to a partner of mine, I end up meeting some fellas in Dubai somewhere, and I tell the government to let them fellas build the plant. That's what the man said. Total irresponsible. OMAT is a company that has 190 power plants, built 190 power plants around the world, some of which they own, and you didn't have to go far. Bouillant's right there next door. Bouillant. Just in Guadeloupe there, you could have gone and find that out. And to say that we just picked up a company to build, and to even trying to impute improper motives. The man say, I have interest with boy, them fellas give me something. But I'm used to that. They had said that before. They said that before, no power plant ever built. They said I gave, what's that place, Sufuya to West Indies Power. Yes, I was the architect of the agreement, and I'm proud of it, because we ensured that if they had not performed in 2 years, the agreement would have been terminated and they would vacate, which happened, and they vacated. I had no deal, no interest. I have been pursuing this thing. I've been leading Dominica's negotiations since 2012. I have negotiated with so many different companies, and I have also negotiated as a consultant and a private company with governments for geothermal development. I don't have an interest in this. My only interest is that I'm confident that this is the best thing for the Dominican people. That we can ensure that we can reduce the cost of electricity. And then people argue, but what about all the investments you've made and the government has invested? And it's not hundreds of millions. It's $55 million US, of which 50% was grants. That is what we've done. But I'll tell you something. The United States government to date has invested over $6 billion US in nuclear fusion research. You know what nuclear fusion is? I see my teacher there. So good to see you, doctor. Nuclear fusion, and I know the speaker himself is a scientist, he knows about these things. And if my former student, former Senator Esprit was there, he would be very excited and elated, and I know so is Senator Edwards. But nuclear fusion is a way of, with the technology, ensuring that you can go, not like splitting the atom, but causing the fusion of atomic particles through some very complicated scientific process. And when that happens, energy is created, and that energy can be used to generate power. The United States government is investing $6.2 billion to date in this. They're not going to ask for their money back, but they will have developed the technology. Similarly, the government has invested in developing geothermal energy to ensure that the consumers get the best deal, not to make money. So the return on investment, is not really the primary goal of the government, but to ensure that the consumers can get the best possible deal. That is what we're after. Because once we ensure, we can make a return, We can put a royalty on the use of the resource, because the law states that any geothermal power belongs to the state. So it means that even if it's in your yard and you go and you drill it, you still have to pay the state a royalty because the resource belongs to the state. It is just the same principle under the Mines of Minerals Act. It's the same thing that governs the geothermal steam. But we are not in the business of making money out of this project. We're in the business of ensuring that we can pass the benefit to the consumers. But how do we pass the benefit to the consumers? So just to explain how this works. So on December 5th, the government of Dominica signed an agreement with the Dominica Geothermal Power 2023 Limited, the Geothermal Power Company of Dominica 2023, which is a subsidiary of OMAT Technologies Incorporated of Nevada, the United States. And Nevada is where you will find most of the geothermal power plants in the United States. So we signed that agreement in Dubai at the margins of COP28, the Conference of the Parties of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And basically that agreement was, well, there are two parts of the agreement. One, there was a concession agreement. The concession agreement is what gives OMAT, or the Dominica Geothermal Power Company, the right, 2023, the right to explore the resource and to construct a power plant, to operate and maintain that plant for a period of 25 years. A concession agreement will have, on one hand, obligations, and on the other hand, the rights of the concessionaire and the grantor. In the case, the grantor is the government of Dominica. So the government of Dominica is the one giving that concession. The government of Dominica owns all the wells, all the land. We are not transferring those to the company. We are allowing them to utilize those assets. These assets belong to the state, and they will always remain in the ownership of the state. Most, well, not most, but rather not just most, all of which were acquired through state resources, CBI money, in other words, and the rest in grant funding. So those assets will be utilized by the geothermal company to produce energy. That energy, electricity, will be sold to DOMLEC through a power purchase agreement. The power purchase agreement will contain, again, the rights and obligations of both parties. And let me go back one step. In the concession agreement, in order to ensure that OMAT meets its obligations and will ensure the proper utilization, sustainable use, environmental protection, as contained in there's a nice name for it, there's an action plan, the Environment Action Plan, coming out of our ESIA, which was conducted in 2013, again in 2018, and it was updated again more recently, because IFLSA, we don't have ESIA. We updated it again when we were ready to expand from 7 to 10 megawatts. So we did all of that. Now, in the plan, there is the way that they must behave. And in order to secure their performance, there's a bond. There's an environmental bond of $2.75 million, which they will place at our disposal, the same way we are doing this today. So the concession agreement, there is that guarantee. Of course, there are other responsibilities of the parties. In the power purchase agreement, similarly, DOMLEC would have to issue a letter of credit to OMAT to ensure that it can pay for the power that OMAT will be providing them with. But on the other hand, OMAT will also be obligated to provide DOMLEC with a letter of credit for $3 million to ensure that they can deliver the power plant when they say they will. So in other words, in the agreement, OMAT has committed to deliver the power plant in 24 months of signing. That is to say, by December 2025, we expect to have a power. If they are unable to do that, then DOMLEC would have to charge them for every day they're not able to provide power, because DOMLEC will have to get power elsewhere. So that is, again, a guarantee that is there for the DOMLEC side. So that is the power purchase agreement. And in the power purchase agreement, which has to be approved by the IRC, the Independent Regulatory Commission on Electricity, they have vetted the agreement, they are satisfied with it, and they will be the ones responsible for enforcing it. In other words, they have to ensure that OMAT will be paid what the two parties agreed, and to ensure further that DOMLEC will not add anything to that tariff that OMAT will be selling to. In other words, OMAT has committed that based on the financing, they can sell electricity at about 12 US cents to 15 US cents. That will be finalized before construction, before the completion of the plant. Once that is sold to DOMLEC, DOMLEC cannot add anything to it except the usual cost of getting your power to you. Now, there's a big debate as to how much people are going to benefit. That is a big question. I am not going to get into the specifics of that, because I think that is a matter that DOMLEC would have, and the IRC would have to pronounce on at some appropriate time. But just to say this, in addition to the power purchase agreement, we also signed a financing agreement. The financing agreement really speaks to the commitments of both parties, the government of Dominica and OMAT on the other hand, on how we are going to construct the power plant. In that agreement, both parties have agreed that we are going to use the cheapest possible funds on the market to finance the construction of the plant. So that OMAT will be putting forward $14 million of equity, that is their money, and the other $53 million, they will go get it at concessional rates. We have already started discussions with the Caribbean Development Bank where there is a special facility from the Green Climate Fund of $60 million, and Dominica has been allocated, one would say, earmarked for Dominica, $30 million. Those funds will be made available at about 2.5% interest rate with the grace period and a repayment period that will help to ensure that we can have the lowest possible cost of electricity. In addition to the facility at the CDB, we have access to another, I'm not sure, between 10 and 15 million US dollars at the CARICOM Development Fund on similar terms and conditions as the CDB. And the CDB has also indicated that they have more funds that we can access if necessary to ensure that the full financing of the power plant, although being constructed by OMAT, not a burden to the state, and I should take my time to say that, it will not be at any cost to the government of Dominica because these are all project funds. The responsibility of the government in that financing agreement is to ensure that we can help to identify concessional financing, which is already an obligation, but it's in our interest. Because if they get cheaper money, it means that the consumers get the lowest possible tariff. So we have started the work, and we are hoping, and not hoping, we're expecting the CDB and the CARICOM Development Fund representatives to be on island in January of next year, together with OMAD, so that they can kick off on the discussions and negotiations for the concessional financing for the financing of the construction of the power plant. So that is one option. The second option for financing is through commercial, and those commercial terms have also been limited and restricted. So we have some information, but we do not want to, well, I'm not at the liberty to disclose, but I know that there are facilities that are available to OMAT to ensure that we can keep the tariff low. If all else fails, OMAT will be the one paying for the construction of the power plant through their own financing. But even in that worst case scenario, we have capped the tariff to ensure that it is still much better than what we pay now. So that is something I don't want to be all, I don't want to complicate things, but just, I'm saying all of this because the members of the opposition asked for some information, and I'm prepared to share more with you at the appropriate time and the appropriate manner. But I'm saying this because I want the Dominican public to understand that we are doing everything possible to reduce the cost of electricity. And one thing we can guarantee, is that once the geothermal power gets to your home, the fuel surcharge will be, I don't want to say eliminated, but it will be significantly reduced, because until we get the power to Portsmouth, we cannot shut down all diesel generators on the Domlec grid. But we will be able to shut down all the diesel generators at Focole to ensure that we can utilize hydro and geothermal power, especially in the south of Dominica, and as far as Maho, I think, or Jimmet, without a transmission system. So let's just give you an example. Currently, you're paying about 51 cents per kilowatt hour for fuel, and that's at the current market rate. World prices reflected on all that. So if we're able to remove 10 megawatts of Domlec's generation, 10 off the grid, we're already talking about a 63% reduction in the use of diesel. So go figure. It means your surcharge, fuel surcharge, will be reduced by more than 50%. And I'm saying that is in addition to the fact that producing electricity using diesel, just the generator alone, is more expensive than geothermal. Just the generator alone, operating it, amortizing what you're paying, what you're owing for it, and everything else, is already more expensive. So let's say, for argument's sake, 18 to 20 cents US. So that is about 50 cents EC for diesel generation. We are ensuring that our tariff sold to, or electricity sold to Domlec will be less than half of that. So there will be a significant reduction. I might be deliberately making it confusing because I don't want you to go back and say that I had say the thing going to go down by that amount and it will go down. So, but you get the point. The point is there will be some significant reductions. And we will work it out. The IRC will be able to pronounce on it at the appropriate time because they are the authority responsible for regulating electricity sales in Dominica. So, Mr. Speaker, I really wanted to respond to those points before I move into the final part of my presentation, which really I want to make sure I respond. Oh, yes. I want to thank my colleagues for, their contribution to this debate, and especially the Member of Parliament for the Soufriere constituency and Minister of Tourism. I would dare say that her recent nuptials have put in her some more profound energy, and her contribution, was really, I must say, excellent, Mrs. Pemberton. I want to thank you for that contribution. And of course, I want to thank my other colleagues for their contribution, not only in this parliament, but outside and throughout the process, because it has been a very, very difficult one. So I think my colleagues have explained a lot of the things and questions that were raised, but I think I just want to go back and say why—
5 more minutes.
I move that the Honorable Minister be given an additional 20 minutes. Secondly, Mr. Speaker. Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the Honourable Minister be given an additional 20 minutes. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it. You are given an additional 20 minutes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, colleagues. Thank you. So just to go back with why are we doing this guarantee? And I've heard the comments again in and out about what exactly is this. So let me just explain what this is and how we got there. So let me take the opportunity to recognize the contribution of the Managing Director and Chairman of the Dominica Geothermal Development Company, Mr. Fred John, who's been with us for the last several years, and the staff at the GDC. We have excellent staff. We have, over the years, gained tremendous experience, and I hope one day they can provide some of their expertise to other countries, especially in our region developing geothermal energy. I also want to recognize the chairman of the Geothermal Advisory Committee, Mr. Kwandani Williams, who is here with us, and the other members of the team. I can see them here, of the advisory committee. I want to thank you for your contribution, and the Deputy Chair, PS of Energy. Thank you very much for your contribution. But why are we here doing this today, especially the eve of New Year's and all that festivities and all? And sorry to interrupt your break. But we are doing this for two main reasons. But I'll explain first why we found ourselves needing to do this. When OMATS tendered on the project, on the geothermal development project, which at the time was being pursued by a consortium of French companies and the DGDC, OMAT won the bid. They had the best tender. And As you're aware, our French partners walked away from the deal for several reasons, which I will not get into at this time. And we found ourselves in a very difficult position, seeking to move the process forward. We approached Ormat and said to them, since you won the bid, and I should say the World Bank also agreed with that and recommended that we approach Ormat to be developers of this project. So when we started the discussion, we said to them, we really don't have time. That the state of Domlec's generating assets are so bad that we need to get this power on the grid as soon as possible. So they said, well, yeah, but normally we would have to do a lot of work, project financing, due diligence from the banks or the financiers, and that could take 6 to 12 months, and that is in addition to the time it takes to negotiate a deal, because it took us almost a year negotiating a deal with Ormat. So we said to them, we really don't have all that time. And they said to us, okay, we can build it. We can start as soon as we sign, give us 30 days, we will start mobilizing and we will start developing a plant. But in order for us to do that, you got to put something on the table. Because we want to be satisfied that if tomorrow you change your mind and say, boy, you see that Geothermal thing, I finished with that. We want to ensure that our investments to date will be secured. That's what it is. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. We're getting a guarantee to give to Ormat so that they can start the work as soon as possible without waiting for financing from a bank, so that they will use their own resources, internal resources, to start the project. And hence we're here, 30 days from December 5th. It will take us to around the 3rd or 4th of January, and we have to get this to them so that we do not delay the commencement of actual work on the power plant. And that's what it is. So we're not going to the bank, to NBD, to take money to give to Ormat. We live in the money at the NBD, as was rightly said by Senator Paris, yeah, but in that case, I don't think we'll be crowding out local investors. That is a small amount compared to, $67 million to build a plant. It's really $5 million we're talking about here. It's not a whole lot of money. And that money will be there. We will pay a fee for having that money there secured. And if the government, some political force majeure, which is a term that most lawyers may not be familiar with because this is one that was really coined in those types of agreements where government's action will be responsible for what would normally be classified as force majeure. No party is responsible really, but except in the case of a political force majeure, they say you're responsible because you're the government. Only you can take matters to Parliament, which we're doing now. Only you alone can pass laws, and you have a monopoly in violence. You have the police. That's just a joke among lawyers. So, the government has ways to enforce so that in the event that something like that happens and Ormat is not able to perform its obligations, they want to be satisfied that they can get that money to make them whole. But I suspect the manager of the GDC, he did a good piece there and then, because by the time this guy's crank, they would have run past $5 million. Trust me, in 3 months, the kind of work they will be doing, they will chew up $5 million. But this $5 million is only going to be there for a period, maximum 24 months, the guarantee, or financial close, whichever comes first. Financial close most likely to come in 6 to 9 months, which is what we're pursuing because we're meeting with CDB and the CARICOM Development Fund in January of this year. And they have been on this project for a while, so they're familiar. So we expect to take less than 6 months, but we still say 3 to 6 months for due diligence, processing, go to their board, get approval, and all of this stuff. So that is what we're looking at. So that's why we need this money. Now, if we go to CDB and CDB say, well, we can approve this for you by January, we're free from this guarantee. It disappears. So NBD can take their $13.5 million and give it to anybody they want to do anything they want. So that's what this is. This is not a difficult one. But we need to ensure that we secure it in order for the work to continue. And I will tell you, after we signed on December 5th, by the time I got to Dominica, December 9th, by the 12th, there was someone from Ormat, Guadeloupe, in my office, ready to roll. The project manager in Guadeloupe came, and by the evening of that night, they had a meeting in Loda. So my friend, the community's been, I suspect they may be tired of us. For information we've been sharing with them, engagements we've had, I've attended a few. There has been so much community engagement that, and the people are so invested in this. I don't know why some people living far away from Loda want to frighten the people. The people have come to terms with the fact that this is going to happen there for them. And we have even negotiated a package for them that we haven't told them about yet, because we feel that the community needs to be, So this is why we're here. As to why not CBI, but I don't know, my good friend, the student there from the West Coast, Senator, you cannot say in one hand, you put in all your eggs in a CBI basket, and then when I take something, I don't want to go in the basket, put that thing in the basket, and we put it in it. That doesn't make sense. And that's why I got a little, animated earlier. Because I hate to hear things that are not making sense. What we found, I will tell you why this is not being financed. I mean, to be honest, ideally, all of us here would love to own this thing and to make the investment. Because this is why in 2016 we created the Dominica Geothermal Development Company. So you're right, Senator Parrish. That's why we created DGDC. But I'll tell you what, we went to market, we got financing from the World Bank, $32 million to do a plant for 7 megawatts. And the market said, no, that's not enough money. And you know the story, you've been close enough to the civil works and so forth. We could not do the plant. And remember, we got hit by Maria. We got hit by Maria a year later. No, the PM had given us a commitment of $15 million for geothermal energy development. And they started getting the funds. We started getting the funds, and Maria hit. But he still said, let's go ahead, we'll continue. And that was after Erica, That was 2016, after Erica. He made a commitment of $15 million, and we started. So PM has always been given the leadership, Prime Minister Skerry has been given the leadership, the support, and has always been willing to put CBI money in this. So much so that we started discussions with a company out of Iceland before to do a plant. It was a steam plant. But we felt, boy, Dominica, the nature isle, we cannot have a steam plant. The Minister of Tourism will not be happy with us. And our biggest tourism asset in the valley there, we can't mess it up. So we decided we had to get a binary plant. But we found out that a binary plant was more than twice what it would have cost to do a steam plant. So we could have done a steam plant and finished with that thing a long time. Cheap. But we decided to go a closed-loop system with a binary system, and hence the need for reinjection wells, which is again more expensive. But the long term, it's better for the resource and the environment and for the people of Dominica. So sorry, we cannot put all the eggs in one basket. Okay, but I don't know what that means. Anyway, let me move on. We also found ourselves in a situation where we found out, because we are going to have 10 megawatts of energy coming out, electricity coming out of Loda from our power plant, and about 4 to 6 megawatts from hydro, our transmission system cannot support that. They're too small. And that's the other thing, I mean, they just work with us there. There are a lot of things the country needed, since we came in office. I mean, you need road, I'm not a partner, listen, I'm not like a certain leader of your party that used to be. I don't take people's words. I say man thing, leave the man thing alone. That's not my thing. But the truth is, the truth is, Mr. Speaker, we also found out, and I will tell you why, again, we could not finance this from our own resources. We found out that because the transmission system, it's not really a transmission system, the little things are running across there. That's just distributive lines, 11,000 watts. We're talking about 33 and 69,000, volts, sorry, not watts, volts. 11,000 volts, so we need to go higher. So now, in order to do that, we need money. So what we did is to take the money we had for the power plant and decide we're going to put it into the transmission system. So we already have a loan from the World Bank. We might have to take a little more to ensure that, one, we can carry the power, but two, which is more important, is that we build a resilient network. There will be redundancy. If one line goes down, there's another line to take it to focally. And to ensure that if we get hit by a hurricane, we're okay. And which takes me to a very interesting point. So that is why, that's the other thing, is the exposure. The debt exposure will be too high to add to what we're already doing. And as I've already expressed here, that in order for us to truly develop Dominica, we have to take that power to Portsmouth. We have to reach Sugarloaf. And then we have to reach Marigot at the airport. Well, not Marigot, but wherever the airport is, Wesley, Grant, we have to move. So in order to make those investments, we cannot now invest in the power plant, which would have been the ideal. But because of the other commitments of the state, we must be able to be wise in managing our finances and the fiscal health of the country. So we found ourselves having to make that partnership with OMAD to ensure that we can get this power. Now, the other thing about OMAD taking over Domlec and all of this thing, I don't know about that, but I don't know where that's coming from. And we just bought the thing. We just bought the power plant, Domlec. But what we recognize from since earlier is that there will be implications for Domlec staffing. So I understand the concerns. And that's why very early we had discussions with the generation manager looking at how we can retool, retrain some of the operators of the diesel plants, and to ensure that they could possibly get engaged at the geothermal power plant. So that is a discussion we had very early. The truth is, I hate to say disruptive. This is not really disruptive technology as we use it, but there are always consequences. As a responsible government, we will ensure that we deal with the possible fallout that Domlec could possibly have. Now, in other words, bringing in Domlec to make that investment, that is something we tried since when Emera was there. We offered the project to Domlec, in the past. Then we offered operation and maintenance to Domlec a second time, and Domlec was not prepared to do that. So these are discussions that we have already put on the table. I don't think we are not that irresponsible to just go ahead and do stuff. Now, so the risk we're guaranteeing, I would take it that has been responded to. What will be the cost to Domlec? Again, Domlec would have to continue to engage Domlec. Now that we have the majority shares, we're in the driver's seat, so therefore that should make it easier. And essentially, it's not everything I can respond to based on the questions that were asked, but I've tried my best to provide to you, the members of the opposition, and to the Dominican public, because I know there's been some questions out there, as much as I could. But I just want to say, to give the assurance, that this was not an easy process. We had the benefit of international consultants, and I honestly don't think they get better than that, because I have been out there for long enough. I know what's out there. We had legal counsel. In the early days, we had Proskauer from New York. Then we went to Holland and Knights from New York. These are guys who charge you $1,200 per hour, who were able to bring their rates down as low as $600, $800, and to ensure that these were the days when we were funded by the Clinton Climate Initiative and SIDSDOC and other parties that were able to assist us. Then we move on. We had Jacobs, New Zealand. And Jacobs, New Zealand, a premier geothermal consultancy firm, they provided support to us at the early days as well. And then we move on to IZOR from Iceland. IZOR, again, they are the guys who not created geothermal. Geothermal started in Italy in 1907, but they have been the world leaders in geothermal energy development, providing consultancy services throughout the world. We had the benefit of IZOR. We had the benefit of STEAM out of Italy, another consultancy that provided support and services to us. We had BRG And we've had so many consultants from all over the world providing support to us to ensure that we can get the technology right, the science right, and we can negotiate the best possible deal. In the final run, we were able to get support from the government of the United States of America through the State Department. They were able to provide consultants from one of the international consulting firms, that they were able to provide us with transaction support so that they can help in negotiating the terms of the agreement with ORMAT. So we have gone through several processes, and to date we are here, and we are convinced that this is, in fact, the best possible deal that we can get at this time for geothermal energy development for Dominica. I am not saying that this deal is not without its own challenges, but the nature of geothermal power is such that we have to take on certain obligations and responsibilities. I wanted to add earlier that in addition to the geothermal power plant, the transmission system, we are also constructing or installing a 5-megawatt battery energy storage system, the best, and we're hoping to see work begin next year. And that battery storage system will further allow them to shut down some of the diesel generators, and the battery storage system will serve as backup, what would normally be called spinning reserves for diesel generators. So it will be backup. That will be built in Focole. We are also negotiating a similar arrangement for Sugarloaf, where another 5-megawatt battery storage system will be installed, again to help in the north to ensure that we can shut down more diesel generators. The more diesel generators we're able to shut down, the more we can reduce the fuel surcharge to the point that eventually we will eliminate it. Mr. Speaker, finally, we went to COP28 in Dubai, and governments from throughout the world, all the UN member states, and other members that are signatories to the UNFCCC, committed to triple the output of renewable energy by 2030. Triple. That's a tall order. Fortunately for us in Dominica, we will be able to do better than that. We can, if we are determined, provide all our electricity demand for use of renewable energy. And then the debate, why not solar, why not wind? And I even forgot that one because I'm tired of hearing that debate. You need 6 to 8 acres of land to put 1 megawatt of solar. 1 megawatt. Now, anybody around there who has 6 to 8 acres that you can send me to build a nice solar plant that you don't need to plant food, you don't need to build a house, you don't need for agriculture, I'll take it. And it will not be too costly for excavation, access. It will not be too difficult to make sure that it's resilient. And you can provide me with an insurance company that's willing to insure it for me if I get a category 4. I don't even go in 5. Because it's 100 miles per hour wind that they design those things for. So anytime you're above that, that thing mash up. You have to make up your mind unless you have some very expensive way of protecting it. So solar is not bad on its own, but you cannot depend on solar power. And especially, why should a country with an abundance of geothermal power that has been proven $55 million later, tell me you're going to depend on putting solar panels throughout a country that's a nature isle with very limited usable land? Dominica big. It's bigger than all the other islands in the windwards, but they have got a lot of usable land. So if you count in mountains, valleys, that is okay, you know. But you don't get in sun in valleys like that, you know. And on mountain, you know, wind like to take your thing and fly it. Now, we can talk about wind. Wind is fine too. So I'm just saying that we should not have them. But they cannot be the foundation of your energy system to develop a country.
2 more minutes.
I think I need another 10 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Honorable Minister be given additional 10 minutes. Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the Honorable Minister be given an additional 10 minutes. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. But interesting discussion. I think the public need to know so.
Well,
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker,
Continue,
I
Honorable
promise I
Minister.
will go on. But, Mr. Speaker, I think it's important to address this because I've heard the arguments being made. Now, listen, I'm the Minister for Energy, and energy means, all sources of energy, and especially renewable energy. And therefore, and I, again, as I've said publicly, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I have solar power at my home, but I must call on Domlec from time to time, which I did last night. And I've had to replace my batteries, which I did after 3 years. And that was costly and painful. And I still was reading the performance the other day, and they're already down by 25%. In other words, you have to change batteries. Battery storage is still expensive. And the big question is, what do you do with the batteries when they expire? Where are you going to throw them? I don't think solid waste have things at the landfill to deal with that, especially lithium ion. I start getting nervous because I invested in lithium ion about a year ago. I start getting nervous. And so when you talk about solar, then the discussion is maybe during the daytime alone. So what happened at night? You use diesel, so you pay fuel surcharge. So you can't get rid of diesel with solar. Or you have to have twice the cost of what you need in terms of storage. And what happens on a few cloudy days when you have no sun? You're going to have to turn off a diesel generator. The reality is solar power is good. It can complement your grid, but it cannot be the basis because it's not base load. You must put battery storage in it in order to get that continuous power. And it is expensive still. Panels are cheap, but batteries are still up there, although they're going down, and I'm happy to see that. But it is not, and the amount of land, man, you need. If you need 10 megawatts, you're talking about 60 acres, 10 megawatts, and by the way, you might need more than that. Because if you want to charge extra battery to stay there, you need more than 10 megawatts of panels to charge their batteries to keep them there. So you will need more than 60 acres of land to get 10 megawatts of power. Where in Dominica are you going to sacrifice that? You're going to split them all over the place, but then you lose efficiencies. And all of this, exactly. So the truth is, there's been a lot of talk about this. Just take my word for it. I've been around this thing for a long time. It's not worth it. Wind is a good option. Offshore wind has great potential, but I'm still not sure how they're going to survive during those hurricane thing and high seas and all that stuff. But they're improving, they're developing, and it's again a good option, but you still need battery storage because the wind is not all available all the time. So really and truly, this whole discussion about wind and solar, we need to get this out of our minds. Even hydro has a challenge because of climate change, droughts, not reliable. And therefore, we have a give that keeps on giving. That's what geothermal is, The steam, if you maintain it properly, will keep going. And you can have it for 60 years. So the 25 years Senator Parry spoke about, yeah, that's one thing on the equipment side, but if you maintain it properly, you can extend that. So we have to talk about this, and we need to ensure what we should be focused on right now. How do we get this right? Because one of the truthful things I heard one of the critics said is that it takes you about 6 to 7 years to study the reservoir once you put the plant, which is true. And this is why we have to take on certain obligations, during the first 6 years. But once you've passed that period and you've observed and studied the resource, then you get a good run because you know how it will behave over time. And this is why perhaps it's even better to have a private investor, a private developer, take it on the first few years so that they would also share in the risk during that period of time and to ensure that the consumers are not placed in a difficult position. But these are some of the challenges that we face with, and these are some of the things that we've done. So, Mr. Speaker, once we get this going, and I will say also our agreements also provide for expansion, and we expect within a few years, once we have the first 10 megawatts, we can start talking about another 5 megawatts, another 10 megawatts, or 20. And the good thing about it, once you do the first 10, the incremental cost will go down. per unit cost. There will be more familiarity. The trucks would have gone up there. They would have installed these huge systems so they know the risk. A developer cannot now charge you for that risk because now they are more familiar with the area, so the unit cost will go down. The true benefit is once we reach 20 megawatts, we start talking, per unit, you may have some gains. As it is now, it's still a challenge for us. And it is not, because we wish it that way, but because we have to do it incrementally. Once we have done that, we now have the opportunity for the expansion of new industries. And before we even talk about new industries, start talking about reducing the cost of our export product. The main export product, tourism. Tourism dollars. Once we start growing the tourism industry, we start talking greater demand for power. But if we can reduce the cost of power, we can have a better return for those who have invested in tourism facilities. So that is the opportunity. That is the opportunity to expand manufacturing, light manufacturing especially, agro-processing, so that we can reduce the cost of operation, make them more competitive, and ensure we can assist businesses in their operation as well as households. So these are important things for us. But in addition to that, we can start talking about other things we can do, create new opportunities. We can invite companies to invest, to do business here, storage for, cloud storage. Then, of course, you can start talking about actual production of energy sources like green storage, green hydrogen, and ammonia. You can start talking about that. Once you can get this right. So this project is very important to Dominica, as we know it is important to ORMAT, as we know our friends from the United States government are providing support and would like to see this work. We also have the benefit of our partners like the United Kingdom over the years who've been there with us, consistently supporting us and ensuring that we can get to this stage. They will help us as we move forward to exploring the full options of the resource that we have, and especially the production of ammonia and green hydrogen. So, Mr. Speaker, I hope I have been able to cover, and I'm not sure if the member for the Suffolk constituency is satisfied that I have covered, because she assigned me to respond to some things, and I hope I have responded appropriately. And I'm not sure if Teacher Bonnie, the member for Castlebrooks constituency, is satisfied with my attempt at being a good teacher. So I would like to ensure that I have covered everything, and I would ensure that the Minister of Finance is no longer burdened with having to do any broad sweep in his final winding up, so that we can move quickly to getting this approved, have it gazetted, give effectiveness to the contracts, and to have work started as soon as the year begins. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Henderson is correct. I really have a tiny job to do here to close up. I think all the questions that were asked this morning, they have been dealt with, and dealt with in the explanations were to the point. I just want to assure the Dominican public that this is a guarantee and it's not a loan. So to the listening public, you have to appreciate that fact it's a guarantee. Not only that it's a guarantee from our side, but also the OMAT is also, they have also to put a guarantee as well. Theirs is actually 5.75 million, and that is 3 million to DOMLEC if there is a delay in the commercial operations, and there's a 2.75 million to the government of Dominica if we need to do any repair regarding our environment. So while we put a guarantee, they are also putting a guarantee, but we are not, it's not a loan that we are taking here. Secondly, you have to look at it from the point of view that, although it was mentioned earlier that maybe we could have put that money to give to small businesses, but over the past 3 years, the government has already put in excess of $35 million at the aid bank for these micro, small, medium-sized businesses. This is precisely why, Mr. Speaker, you will see in every shop and every supermarket, it's flooded with Dominican products. And that is a result of these $35 million that we have put at the aid bank, which all small businesses, micro, medium, they have been using and utilizing. That is why you can see those products on the shelves of our supermarkets and our shops. So that, that point really doesn't stand there at all. As regards to CBI funds, which was mentioned that we should use, even if we were to have used CBI funds, we would still have to come to Parliament to pass this resolution. Regardless whether it was a guarantee from NBD or from the CBI, we would still have to come here to pass this resolution in Parliament. Also, the option that Dr. Henderson mentioned in terms of the Caribbean Development Bank, you have to recognize it's not the government of Dominica taking a loan. It is OMA taking the loan. We're just facilitating and we're just there to assist so that they can get it from the CDB at concessionary and from good terms and conditions. But as to the government of Dominica taking a loan to build a plant, no, that is not the case. It is not the government of Dominica taking a loan to build the geothermal plant. But we are right here at the end. This is the last lap, the plant and obviously the transmission lines. And this is just the approach that the government has been taking. It's a very comprehensive approach in our development agenda. And we'll appreciate the fact that the geothermal plant, let alone the dependable renewable energy source and the rates of electricity of providing power, which is going to benefit every citizen in this country, as well as make us much more competitive in terms of business and industries. So, and then it's just our way of leading from the front as a government, because that way you recognize that we're actually the leaders in the region in terms of geothermal power. We've seen other countries what they have tried, they haven't worked out, and we see where some of them are now presently, but we're way ahead of the curve, and that's where we intend to be, and we should be proud. And this is really a good message we're sending to international community as to our commitment to reducing our carbon footprint and an easier and better and cleaner place to do business. So this actually is an excellent opportunity for other countries, other organizations, other companies to invest in Dominica because they recognize how serious we are in terms of being the first climate resilient nation by 2030 and how serious we are in terms of the sort of concessions they can get when it comes, let alone the fact of just having lower rates for power. Mr. Speaker, in terms of the community, the people of Loda and the entire Rosa Valley, they are fully aware of the benefits of this geothermal plant and providing geothermal power. They have been repeatedly engaged. As a matter of fact, just maybe 2 weeks ago, we were there and the people from OMAT were there as well, and the general manager, Mr. John, was there. They had all their questions, genuine questions. They were all answered. They were all clarified. And a few years ago, actually people from the community of Loda traveled to Guadeloupe to see and to experience where the geothermal plant was, in which village. So they were, all their answers, they were actually answered. All their questions were answered. And and they are pretty much aware that there will be some benefits for the village, which Dr. Henderson said later on. We'll get to the nitty-gritty of that in terms of the specifics. But they're fully aware that they're going to benefit from all of this, from the geothermal plant. The community does stand to benefit from this as well. Mr. Speaker, in closing, I would just want to wish everyone in the Rosa Valley a pleasant holiday season, and by extension, everyone in Dominica a pleasant holiday season. I think this morning here, we've done pretty well, and everyone is in agreement that this is the best way to go forward in terms of our geothermal agenda, and I'm pleased that everyone gave their views. They were pretty much open. Dr. Henderson clarified all the questions that were asked this morning, and if anything, I think we're in a better position and in a good position for us to go forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
This concludes the debate on the motion, but I would just inform the House, I visited the Bouillard plant in Guadeloupe. You know, so again, as I told members, when you come to the House, we have to really do our research, you know? Yeah, so just, you know, we, as members of parliament, you really, yes, you representing people, and that's why we have to be very, very responsible. Very. Maybe in 2010, 12, around there, as the CEO of the National Export Strategy, I visited because you don't want to just talk, you want to know. Yeah. Okay, great. I think we had a good session, so let's go to the resolution. I will now put the question. Be it resolved that in accordance with Section 37 of the Finance Administration Act, Chapter 6302 of the 2017 revised laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica, this Honorable House authorizes the Minister for Finance to obtain a bank guarantee from the National Bank of Dominica in the amount of $5 million United States dollars, or 13,500,000 Eastern Caribbean dollars, on the following terms to secure the commitments made in the project financing agreement between the Government of Dominica and the Geothermal Power Company of Dominica 2023 Limited for the construction of the geothermal plant as follows. Period. 2 years expiring no later than January 2nd, 2026. Commission 2% upon issue and annually thereafter. And be it further resolved that in accordance with Section 3.1 of the Loans Act, Chapter 6405 of the 2017 revised laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica, this Honorable House authorizes the Minister for Finance to borrow any amount recovered or called in by the Geothermal Power Company of Dominica 2023 Limited, but not more than $5 million United States dollars or 13,500,000 Eastern Caribbean dollars on the following terms in the event of a cause for recovery or calling. Repayment period 240 months. Interest rate 5% per annum on the reducing balance. Grace period 2 years on principal. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The motion has been approved.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank all the members of the House for their contribution on the resolution, but I also want to take the opportunity to wish everyone happy holidays. Hope they had a Merry Christmas. Don't eat too much ham and turkey. And I wish everyone a productive 2024 as we continue to work hard to moving our country forward. Having said this, Mr. Speaker, I move that the House be adjourned. Sign or die.
Mr. Speaker.
I would like to take this opportunity also to wish all of you here in this Parliament and Dominica a healthy, most important, healthy, prosperous, and a happy 2024. It has been moved and seconded that the House be adjourned. Sign the die. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. House is adjourned. Sign the die.